With the Butt Kicker Gamer 2, what you see and what you hear is what you feel. Butt Kicker. The future is feeling.
Ever witnessed someone so fast on track you doubt you could ever be on their level? The mission of Advanced Motorsports is to demonstrate the speed is achievable for everyone. With the expertise of some of the best sim drivers in North America, we are set to release free content on social media and comprehensive guides on our website. For those seeking the ultimate experience, our Advanced Motorsport Institute and personalized coaching sessions are the way to go. No matter your level of experience, we invite you to follow us on our social media to learn to be fast.
There are very few racetracks in the world that can compete with the allure of Daytona International Speedway. And tonight, that's where we're going in the Precision Racing League. The Truck Series is first, the Grand National Series is next. Both times, we're going racing at this 2.5-mile super speedway that many people call one of the greatest places on Earth. Dylan Coyle along with Derek Watson to bring you all the action here on RaceSpotTV. Daytona always brings the action. 40 minutes of the Truck Series racing here, 55 for the Grand National Series. Derek, let's go over the schedule.
Yeah, the schedule for this
for the Truck Series, and we're in the final third of the season.
Yeah, the schedule's been great, hasn't it? We had sort of the fantasy portion of the schedule with Myrtle Beach and Chicagoland, Willow Springs even, but now we get down to what we call the NASCAR portion. So Daytona this week, sort of another super speedway next week in Atlanta, and then actually with the way the trucks drive, Dylan, really a third super speedway in week 9 with Las Vegas.
Yeah, Vegas and Atlanta. I mean, these are two super speedways in the final third of the season. It's going to be interesting to see how these drivers fare with competing against each other there. We take a look at those standings. 7 points is all that separates Stephen Kirby and Patrick Cowgill from each other. You look just a little bit back and you see Miguel Fonseca is just 13 points back of Kirby. So much can change in an instant here at this cathedral. I know it's not the Cathedral of Speed, but it feels like it'll be a Cathedral of Speed tonight in Daytona. Take a look at these Truck Series team standings, and it's a bit of a bloodbath. It's different here, isn't it, Derek?
Yeah, it's a bit different, right? RBM Shake has a nice, sizable, almost 60-point lead over Fillmore BFR. Then it comes a little closer. Whataback Speedwork, just a few points back, and then Team DDI 44 Ever, Whataback Hunters. You know, there's a bunch of spots to move around up here. But listen, and we know the team points. It just takes one bad night for a team, and this could open up. This could really tighten up again. Pardon me. So not that different. Who knows what could be when we get down to Vegas at the roll of the dice in 2 weeks.
Yeah, and Vegas is a perfect place to say roll of the dice indeed, Derek. Good pun right there. I like it. You played your cards well. But we're still seeing some of this qualifying here at Daytona. And you know, we're used to seeing qualifying happen in a very short amount of time with different drivers getting their results at different lengths of the 5-minute qualifying session. Here, though, it takes a minute to get up to speed, and you got 2 more minutes probably to get your laps down, and a lot of drivers like to go out immediately as to not lose any time when it comes down to it, because it's never a fun feeling thinking, oh, goodness, I've got no time to get a second lap here.
No, that's very true. You really got to nail it correctly. And you really, you know, the way you want to do it, you know, there's different variants now and beliefs across iRacing, whether you want to do it on the first lap or the second. But I think you want to use that first lap to get it wound up and then qualify well on the second lap.
Yeah, usually that second lap is the lap that you get the most speed out of. I always think it must be smart to use that first lap as a bit of an installment lap. You know, ride up high against the wall, maybe use as much of the track as possible to put all the speed necessary into that second lap. Sometimes I feel like that's the way. It's not always the case with what drivers end up enjoying doing here. But I'll tell you what my biggest fear whenever we go into a super speedway race is obviously avoiding the wrecks. But here, though, if you get into a wreck with around 5 minutes remaining in the race, we might not have a restart. So these drivers have to contend knowing that any wrong move in the final 5 minutes of this 40-minute race could be the final wrong move they'll be able to make.
Yeah, it just puts the pressure on a little bit, right? To always want to be up front or be near contention because you never know what may happen. There's Andrew Sharp, by the way, part of Battle Bus Racing. He is doing that strategy you and I hinted at, that sort of riding the wall. Andrew, of course, having a great season. No one's more surprised than Andrew, by the way, at his success, I think, to a certain extent. And look how big that chair is, Dylan. I meant to ask Andrew when he and I talked last week after the race. I don't know if Andrew's tiny or the chair is big.
I think it's a combination of both, and maybe the camera angle does not help or does not flatter Andrew right there. I can see it being both ways. Currently, he's sat in the bottom half of the field in P13. Tanner Johnson goes fastest, and you see a lot of movement in the leaderboard, and that's because most drivers are starting to end their final lap. Most of them, I'd say, went out right away, and now is where you see those fast times get set. Johnson 7,000's up, but everyone's pretty close in back. Fonseca almost half a tenth back, and he still has, I think, one more lap to go here. He's not right against the yellow line, which is costing him mightily.
Yeah, it can cost them mightily, especially if it's, you know, because anytime you want to look at something, the shortest way around is always the fastest, is the way to look at it here. And even here, the other thing to note for Fonseca in there, he's not up against the wall. So you want to track it out as far as possible. Let's see what Brett Adams does here. This is probably his second lap based on that yellow line ride. You want to drift it up a little bit out of the corner and then drift it back down here into the tri-oval. That's a great way to do it. You want to say, oof. I'm not a fan of that move right there. I think it cuts off speed to get down to the apron sometimes. You got to do it very, very smoothly. But Brett did it well. But yeah, you're right. A bunch of times being set here with only about 30 seconds left in qualifying.
Yeah, most drivers have already completed their 2 laps. Stephen Kirby, I mean, I know 27 thousandths does not feel like an incredible improvement over another time, but the fact that Kirby at the moment is 27 thousandths up with no drivers currently seeming to threaten that position is pretty incredible, Derek. But time is about to wind down and pretty much everybody is off track. That's the checkered flag. Positions are finalized, and we're about to see the grid for this 40-minute race at Daytona International Speedway. Well, but actually first, Derek, you can call me dumb. We have to go. Well, we'll go through it afterwards. Stephen Kirby and Andrew Sharp are going to be starting on the front row, while Tanner Johnson and Marty Calvert will round out your top 4. Stacey Hunter, Jordan Miller will round out the top 6. Continuing down the order, Matthew Alaka and Jake Mackey, along with Ryan Latshaw and Philip Beaver, are your top 10 starters. Nicholas Hunter, Garrett Austin in your first 6 rows of this race. And in P13 is Miguel Fonseca, Mike Toomer Jr. alongside Edward Peltz, Zachary Austin, Kyle Dewey, and John Jones, your top 18 starting positions. And a lot of drivers from here on out did not qualify. Brett Adams, Kevin McGarvey in the top 20, while Zach Panzarella and Tom Macy starting your top 22. Mike Richter, and Colton Easterday, your top 24. And the final bit of drivers that did not qualify: Cowgill, Hunter, Evan Williams, and Antonio Bannister, your 28 truck starting field. Now, of course, we must give thanks to who make everything possible here in the Precision Racing League. This coverage is brought to you by Advanced Sim Racing. Owned and operated by passionate sim racers, Advanced Sim Racing designs and builds the sturdiest and most durable aluminum profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. All PRL members also get a 5% discount on ASR products using the Precision 5 coupon code. Racebox Sim Racing. Racebox offers mid and high-end button boxes for sim racing enthusiasts, from the casual gamer up to the most meticulous sim racing driver. Competitively priced and carefully handcrafted, our button boxes are an enjoyable addition to any sim racing setup. Visit raceboxsimracing.com and get a 5% discount using the Precision 5 coupon code. Butt Kicker. Butt Kicker products add incredible immersion and realism to every game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seats. Muradness is a performance lifestyle brand motivated by motorsport and founded by professional race car driver Daniel Morad. Mr. Hedge iRacing Photography lets you capture your finest, proudest, or simply worst moments from your hobby in up to 8K resolution, a great addition to any sim room. And finally, Advanced Motorsports. Get ready to learn to be fast. Fast with Advanced Motorsports. Follow them on their socials to become a better driver. And Derek, this is going to be a fun test to see not necessarily who is the better drivers or a worse driver, but more who can deal with the pressure and get a little bit lucky here at this 2.5 mile super speedway.
Yeah, you think if you wanted to make a recipe of success at Daytona, it's 1 part luck, 1 part patience, 1 part skill, 1 part strategy, and then maybe a tad bit of teamwork and communication. You mix all that together, and you hope you come out with the best recipe here, and you're able to win at Daytona.
Well, everyone is going to get a fair shot at it. 28 drivers in this starting field. PRL Truck Series competition, 3 to go in the race season. Green flag is in the air. 40 minutes of racing action at Daytona as they storm into turn 1. Already, Derek, you see a little bit of shuffling the top row. I thought it got a little bit antsy. There's some separation in the mid-pack. Some drivers saying, I'm done. And one driver going down to the bottom to try and take the lead of this race for good. That's Tanner Johnson.
Yeah, a bunch of different strategies play out already on lap 1. You got drivers who want to be up there involved in it. That's the drivers right here on your screen. They decided they would think the best way to win this race is to be up front, because ideally nothing bad happens up front. So we'll watch that story happen. Ideally, I said, it doesn't always fall true. Then you got drivers like Zach Panzarella who decided they want to fall in the back. You'll see him in the back of your camera shot here. And they're going to try that strategy of kind of wait, let the wreck happen. Maybe 2 wrecks happen, and then I'll get involved. So a bunch of different strategies already playing out here on lap 2.
Lots of drivers still trying to find their best spot to be in. It almost looks like it's a serpentine line, right? It's not something we're necessarily used to so early on in the race, but drivers are just trying to feel it out, see if the air affects them in bigger ways by just peeking out just a bit, but it almost feels a little bit too early to be looking to make moves. I know that it's a timed race, right? So 38 minutes are going to go off the clock, no matter if it's under caution or under green flag conditions. But I still think that it is quite interesting to see some aggression already in this one.
Well, the cars peek out for a few different reasons. Obviously, some of it is drivers wanting to peek around and see what happens. The second reason, listen, there's that old line we use as super speedway. It's called hold your line. We all say it, but it's so hard to do it perfectly because of either force feedback or just how, this track is maybe not as bumpy as some of the tracks we've been to in the past couple of weeks, but this is not a smooth surface. It'll throw you around a little bit. There's a lot of reasons. And the third reason is, and this is what you talked about, serpentining, the correct way to draft, Dylan, especially from the inside, is to always focus on the yellow line. If you drive the yellow line, you will draft perfectly. If you try to draft following the guy in front of you when he wiggles back and forth, there's this whole little weird like conga line that starts to happen in a line. Follow the yellow line and it'll come to you, I promise.
That yellow line, it's so important to stay glued down there. And you see that left side I don't understand why there's a bit of a dip to the middle, to the sucker hole, really, as they just don't seem connected. They don't seem comfortable just staying in that single line, even though it's double file. Each line, there's a lot of separation, right? There's a third groove in the middle that you're not going to force until later in the race, but it almost feels like every single time we go around the backstretch, drivers are just kind of peeking, seeing if that's a move they can make right now.
Well, and the other challenge with the trucks too, Dylan, depending upon the point of view that a driver uses, and maybe we could get it on board and show this, if you're drafting property, if you're the 53 of Tanner Johnson, second in line, if you are drafting and pushing Andrew Sharp correctly, the only thing you should see right now is the rear end of Andrew's truck. So every now and then you do kind of want to peek out, and you do want to see what's around you, because in the trucks, look at that. That's how wide that is. Now take that from a driver perspective. That's all he can see right there. Now in the corners, it's a little better, but I promise you, if there was something in the road ahead of Andrew, Tanner would have no idea that that's there. And look at this on back. This is even worse. This is Garrett Austin here. Look what he sees. And if you're drafting property and you're right up on the back end of that truck in front of you like you should be, good luck seeing around it. So sometimes you do need to peek out. That's a cool shot of Garrett, by the way, there. Nice little... this is a made bed.
Well, I want to say, I was ridiculed 3 years ago when I was still in college for my messy room on... whenever I was racing or whenever I was being shown on RaceSpotTV as a commentator. So, Garrett, I'm throwing it right back at you. You didn't give me any crap, but I'm going to give it to you based off of RaceSpotTV. Clean your bed. Make it.
Make the bed at least, yeah,
Make
right?
the bed. Goodness me. But
buy a green screen. That's what I did. That's the lazy way of doing it, by the way. If you want to be lazy and not clean your room, buy a green screen.
I have seen very quick moves by people who have a green screen of their exact background when their bed is cleaned. And then they just, yank it up. And all of a sudden, it's a messy bed in the background. I love that.
Yeah, it's fun.
This race is fun. These two are still trying to, shake it up and shuffle it out up front. The 17 and the 53. What were we going to say?
I thought you were going to go with the old Tay-Tay reference. I thought you were going to say they were trying to shake it off.
Shake it off. Okay, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, this is Dylan's version tonight. Shake it up and keep moving on, I guess, to just get there. It's 34 minutes of action. Oh, that's a big move up top. Just truck's not comfortable enough right here.
No, still a lot of figuring it out. Still a lot of seeing what the truck can do. Some of the drivers do take advantage of the iRacing official races, to make some practice laps, and some don't. So there's a lot of drivers who may be getting their first laps in right here under these conditions and trying to figure out what they can and can't do. And listen, there's also a problem of who do you trust around here. It's different. Every race you have, you sort of mentally link up with a driver. Maybe it's your teammate in PRL or just a driver you think is drafting well. And every now and then there's a driver, Dylan, who you can't draft well with and you don't know why, and you do everything possible to avoid that person. So it goes both ways here. There's a lot to figure out in the next 32 minutes, 33 minutes here to make sure you're set up to make the right move on the last lap.
Well, I've certainly had my fair share of drivers that I just don't feel necessarily comfortable with, whether they're just too aggressive with the bumps in the corners, or they're maybe not aggressive enough down the straightaways. It's hard, right? It's an art to drafting that gets you a couple thousandths here, a couple thousandths there. The biggest thing in plate racing and super speedway racing, you want to feel comfortable with the people around you, and not often does that always happen.
No, there's a lot that goes into comfort. Just how they push. Do they push when you want? As you hinted, a big topic about bump drafting and pushing across all of iRacing is, don't push me in the corner, or hey, I do want pushed in the corner. That can be a big thing. And listen, some people are great at pushing. Some people prefer to be pushed. There's all kinds of different beliefs and methods to bump drafting and iRacing. And you're in a vehicle that probably of the 3 top NASCAR vehicles, that being the trucks, the Grand Nationals, and the Cup, these are the ones that probably suck up and draft the best out of the 3 cars in the current packages we have. So you can make some exceptional moves here. So these first probably 20 minutes, Dylan, in a way, it's sort of an science experiment. Learn what you can. Figure out what you can and can't do here. Do you want to ride in the back and try to push your way forward and see what's possible? And then be ready to start actually racing when the time comes.
And it is interesting that you bring that up, actually racing when the time comes, as there's a move down to the bottom by Tanner Johnson. And that's an interesting one to me right there. Marty Calvert is now leading that outside line, and we've seen that move by Tanner before in this race, where he just doesn't like the line that he's in. He almost wants to kind of patrol and make sure that he keeps everybody else under his thumb in behind. That requires some smart moving up and down.
Now, here's the risk you take when you're a Tanner Johnson making moves like that, and it's the risk of, what does Marty Calvert think of that move you just made? Is he happy that you moved down? Does Marty prefer you would have stuck up there and pulled him along? And if Marty doesn't like it, is Marty willing to push you next time? There's this whole mental chess game going on at Daytona of moves like that. So you got to be careful who you hang out to dry, because it may come back to bite you later. Look at Marty now getting a big push.
Big push indeed for Marty Calvert. The top line is moving, but the bottom line is now going to get helped out as that top line starts to ripple apart. It's how it works in super speedway racing, where the top line and the bottom line, sometimes one is more dominant than the other because of the drivers that are in that line. When they're equal performance, you'll get bigger runs from one. And then because of the accordion effect, they'll all start to kind of peel off in speed, while everyone else in another line got reconnected again. And the closer these trucks are to each other's front and rears, the faster that they will go, at the risk of higher oil temperatures, higher water temperatures. And that is a concern sometimes if you're locked on, which technically in NASCAR competition you're not allowed to do. But here, it's just almost impossible to lock on. But if you are, by all intents and purposes, locked onto another driver for a long time, those temperatures will rise and skyrocket into the stratosphere, Derek.
Yeah, and so the driver has the ability to see that inside their car, either through the analog dials or through a digital dash now offered by iRacing. You can see those, and they'll start to blink red when you have a problem. It'll take a bit of a push, though, to get there. I think a lot of drivers get nervous too soon and back out maybe more than they should, but it does happen, and that information is available to the driver, pardon me. And now again here we're seeing, look at this though, that is a beautiful push that Calvert is getting in the 53 from Tanner Johnson, I believe, there on the inside. But look at the back, look how the back, there's just people just hanging on to the draft, Dylan. Those are the guys that I sort of keep an eye on the most. You see in the back right of your shot there. They're the ones who are kind of scared to be up in this. They don't want to have a wrecked truck. They want to be able to finish the race. They're kind of waiting for something bad to happen.
Yeah, that's true, isn't it? It's just waiting for something bad to happen. But you also have a problem with waiting in a timed race where something bad happens and then 5 minutes roll off the timer, because that's just how it works under a caution period. So it might not necessarily be the smartest to wait. It's why that delicate balance that the PRL has with a timed super speedway race is so intriguing and so important. Right now, we're on track for 49 actual laps in this race. We're on lap 15, if you will. You think about it in that way, where we're only with 35 laps to go, and it kind of makes sense that it hasn't gotten absolutely crazy yet, but the aggression and the intensity will turn up very shortly.
Yeah, it will turn up very shortly. And of course, one thing that's going to make it more intense is if we stay green, Dylan, this is going to require green flag pit stops. There's no way we go this whole race without a pit stop, whether it be green or yellow. And by the way, here's our first moment of white knuckles because the field's catching their first lapped car.
And this will be uncomfortable for sure. And it's weird, right? You're a lapped car and you just get a little bit too disconnected with the rest of the pack. You're almost completely done at that point. But Brett Adams, I wonder if Adams joined the grid late because he's 2 laps down at this point. Either he had to start from pit lane or pit road, or he just missed the timing to get into the race, because it's not often that in 15 laps you're lapped twice. It can happen though. The speeds you have when you're not in the draft are so slow compared to when you are in, but he'll go high and everyone else will try and shuffle underneath him on the exit of turn 4, Derek.
Yeah, that's tight. Yeah, that you're right. That right there is a great example of the difference in speed of draft and no draft. And he gets up in the wall, and he got a little help up in the wall there by a couple different cars. But right now, what Adams is trying to do is find the spot where it gets to be, for him, only 2 wide, meaning only 1 car below him, so that he can dip in line and take advantage of this draft and be a part of something. Now it looks like that top lane has moved up, and they're going to sort of help him draft. And there it is. Now he's formed back in line here. So that moment is done. But let me tell you, as a driver, whether you are the leaders or whether you are that lapped car, it's always a tight moment, because yes, we can do 3 wide at Daytona, but there's something about being caught in the corner. And I can't tell you why. You're trying so hard to keep it up there, basically above that white line you see on your screen, that it becomes so difficult. It's so hard to do.
Yeah, it is very difficult to just go. Listen, 3 wide at any super speedway is uncomfortable. And I guess we have to include Atlanta, right? It is a super speedway now in terms of speed. I think it'll taper off in the next 5 or so years, and it'll become less of a super speedway, more of, you know, a really kind of sketchy old super speedway that's very narrow. But this one at Daytona, it's not that wide. 3 wide is the most that you can realistically do. And even that, with all the serpentining going on between the 2 wide pack, it just feels like that's impossible at this current point in time. So going around any lapped car is going to be weird and uncomfortable, as you see. I think drivers are starting to get a bit antsy now. 25 minutes to go in this race.
Yeah, by the way, it was during that moment of passing the lap car, Jordan Miller took advantage of that moment and went ahead and got down, and he is now leading this line. But I think everybody's getting antsy now because we're just about at the halfway point. Now those thoughts start to creep in your head. Okay, listen, we're halfway. There's not been a caution yet. What if there's not a caution? I need to start getting, you know, things moving. I need to move forward. These thoughts of urgency begin to creep into your mind because, you know, that plan you had of waiting for the first yellow seems to slowly be dissipating here into the sky. And so now we're going to see this happen little by little, where the intensity ramps up. But man, they are all over it. No, there's a move up by, is that Tanner Johnson in the orange and black car? Is he going to stuck in the sucker hole?
Potentially, and the question is, will anyone want to come with him? The longer he is there, the lower the chances, but he has side drafted enough where he is still getting some speed. And I'll tell you what, being in the middle, being in that sucker hole is not as bad of a deal in a truck series machine as it is with a Grand National Series car, an Xfinity Series car, or in a Cup Series car. He got back into the lead out of all that. That's wild.
Yeah, they let him up to the top line, and he sort of went ahead and took advantage of that. And once again, it's pulled down and left. I think that's Marty Calvert up there in the top. It is Marty Calvert. I can see now hanging out to dry there again. So Marty's really been sort of the guy who gets all the assists in hockey right now. He keeps helping the guys get up front. He just hasn't done it himself yet.
I appreciate the hockey reference as a big hockey guy here. You know, Dustin, whenever he produces, he always has something to say about his Nashville Predators, and in the chat, which, Nashville. How about that? Big news today.
Yeah, big news for Nashville Day with the IndyCar world, right? With them now hosting the finale instead of, I think it was going to be Laguna Seca, I believe was where it was going to end up. So
no, it was actually going to be in Nashville still. They cannot use the
road
street course. Yeah,
that's right. I'm sorry. Yes, you're right. Yeah, I had the wrong course in my head. Yeah, you're right. So I'm kind of sad about that, by the way. We can talk about that later. But yeah, it's sad to see that course going away. But man, it is still tight here, too wide, almost all the way back. We're about halfway through, and there's been some movement here and lots of movement. You can see it on the side of your screen, by the way. All the red and the green. It's not Christmas. That just means that there's people moving up and down across the field here. But man, it is still tight. And for the first time, Marty Calvert is looked to be poised to take the lead here if they keep it up.
Trying his best to do that. Marty's actually led a couple laps in this race. It's just been very clearly Tanner in front of the field. Tanner Johnson, that is, but a little bit of a push. Calvert gets disconnected. Then you see Jordan Miller pushing Tanner Johnson, but here's where that bottom line is about to lose some steam. It's because of the disconnect between the 17 and third car in line right there on the bottom. It's cyclical, right? You're going to continue having these different movements. I think Marty led that last lap of the race, and he'll get a bigger push in front. The outside line just seems a little bit more connected up front, but all of a sudden you see blinking and a truck into the wall. What happened there?
Wow, a little bit of connection problem looks like for the car or the truck in second place part of me, and that's bad for multiple reasons. One, obviously, for that driver just having a connection problem. Two, it breaks the draft. When that driver disappears, that draft is gone. And three, everyone gets nervous about where they're going to reappear when they come back in. So a lot of things just happen there. Jordan Miller moves to the top, by the way, and doing a great job here. So look at that pack on the back there. That's just slightly disconnected, Dylan. That's the pack that I think now they're realizing at the halfway mark, they need to get moving and they need to get back in this thing. Of course, the gambler's fallacy tells you the moment you do it, something bad will happen. But sometimes you have to risk that. But man, we're doing a great job here in the truck series of keeping us green so far, and a lot of great pushing.
So far, for sure. It's a big pack. 20 minutes into this race, and that is lovely to see. All the 27 drivers that are on the lead lap are in this one pack. I don't think you see that quite often. Usually you'll start to see some segmentation happen between packs in the field. You do have a few trailers in the back, but overall they could work together to get right back involved in this battle for a top 20 spot. It's been exciting, it's been interesting, but the question I have, Derek, is who throws the first punch and tries to make a third line work?
Oh, I mean, the easy money right now, of course, is on Tanner Johnson because he's been all over the track. But right now, since he's right in the bottom and right in that yellow lane, he's not exactly my candidate to do so. But I think it is. I think Tanner Johnson, when push comes to shove, may be the one to really start to explore that third lane. Now, the question is, does the third lane form in the middle, or does the third lane form up above the top lane? That'll be sort of the question of how it works here and who makes it happen. So lots to look at here. And of course, you know, the idea of writing what lane you're in, this is also a driver preference. Sometimes it's dictated by the run that happens, or sometimes it's dictated by other drivers, but there are drivers who prefer a certain lane. Oh, hold on,
there's
yellow.
a big
wreck in the back. Big wreck.
In the back. Yellow is out, and that happened after we were just talking about how impressive it has been in this field. All of the drivers holding it together. Might have just been a case of that first punch being thrown. Trucks are still spinning, trying to get back out onto the track. That was the 7 machine of Edward Peltz, but nonetheless, that is the big one, and lots of drivers. Easter Day, Austin Hunter, Mike Richter, Patrick Cowgill, Zach Panzarella, Amacy, Fonseca, Nick Hunter, Garrett Austin, Zachary Austin, Peltz, Bannister, and Alaka all involved. And that's a massive, massive wreck that just took out, maybe not took out for good, but wrecked a lot of drivers' days of hopes of being clean with the race car.
Yeah, so we'll wait and see when the race spot replay machine loads. I think we're seeing an issue between John Jones and I think it's Zachary Austin. It's going to be a bad bump draft I think is what we're going to see from what I could tell when it first happened. That's going to lead to this yellow come. Here it is. Let's see the up top view. Look about the middle of your screen on the replay here. You see a nice run, and yep, just gets into that flamingo car.
Horrible push.
So it's a matter of two things happening, right? One is how much these trucks move in that draft. And man, look at that calamity behind them. Look at it here. Just lots of people. With a few stragglers who kind of held on the brakes and waited, but it's a mix of how strong of a push these trucks can get and how much you can suck in a draft. And then the fact that John Jones was not squared up, I think that's your problem, is John Jones was not squared up. He basically pushed on the back right quarter panel, and that's what's going to happen every time you do that.
Now, I always look at it this way. If you're going to push in the corners in the tri-oval, you better be sure that your push is going to hit the driver square. If it doesn't hit them square, that's on you if they spin. That's just my look at it. I'm not sure if you agree with that, Derek.
Yeah, I mean, to a certain extent, yeah. If you're gonna push in the middle, and here comes the pit stops. By the way, no surprise. Everybody had to make one at some point, so no surprise. Everyone comes down. Everyone puts gas in.
One stays out.
That's confusing to me.
Might be Brett Adams. It could be Brett Adams.
Oh, he could be. He's probably the lucky dog.
That is probably true, as we see
he's
him
probably the lucky dog.
Fly on through, and he also would not have been allowed to pit on the lead, the lap that the leaders went into the pits. So after this, though, we're seeing Matthew Alaka is currently down one lap. I wonder if that was a race-ending incident. He's been in pit road for over 2.5 minutes right now. I was almost wondering if it wasn't Adams a lap down, as Jake Mackey takes the lead after that. I almost would wonder if we would have a quickie caution. You know, no cars on a lap down meant that we would go back to racing a lap earlier. But let's talk about these box times. I'm sorry, Derek. Continue.
No, go ahead.
I wanted to talk about the time spent in the box because we're seeing differing strategies here. Some drivers deciding to spend a lot longer in the box. And I wonder if that's more of a mistake where they're trying to fill up back to 100%, or some that are trying to game it where they only put a few more laps of fuel on it, but there's no reason you should have been in the box for 14 seconds.
Yeah, it's probably a difference also of 2 and 4 tires strategy playing out.
But there's no need for the tires here at Daytona.
Oh, I disagree. I know this is
let's not do this again.
Listen, I know that here's what happens. So for those, maybe if you have family or friends and you're new to iRacing, you don't know this. When you pit, you do get some readings from iRacing saying how your tires are doing. And they're saying, oh, it's 98%. The tread in the tires in iRacing on a super speed doesn't wear that hard. But there's still a small bit of difference. If I got to stop under yellow and put gas in this truck, I'm putting 4 tires on. There's no reason not to put 4 tires on. I can move through this field in a truck that drafts this well. I want that little bit of extra grip and comfort of knowing when I step on the gas pedal that I'm not going to spin old tires. This idea that tires don't wear, that's true. And if we were pitting under green, I would be with you 100%. Let's put either rights or lefts, not both, and flip them back and forth. Under yellow, when all was equal, I'll take my 4 tires, thanks.
Okay. I can't necessarily disagree with you. If you're going for a full tank of fuel, then it's not a horrible idea to necessarily get 4 tires as well, but nonetheless, I still almost feel like it's if you're going for
also,
yes,
I think it also comes down to the idea you talked about as well, which is let's play with the fuel numbers, right? Let's assume you're confident there'll be 1 more yellow or 2 more yellows, you might have opted to put less fuel in this truck because you don't think we're going to run green for the next probably 12 minutes or let's say 13 minutes when we go green here. There's some chess being played here on a lot of factors. This would not be the first race either in PRL or real life where some drivers are begging for yellows because they don't have enough gas.
You know, I can't necessarily disagree to get 4 tires if you're getting a full tank of fuel put in there, but I also don't think that there's any point to getting a full tank of fuel when there's 13 minutes left in this race and there's going to be most likely another caution. And barely any time to make your way through the field. So, to me, just get a little bit of fuel and go out back onto the track. If this was a lap-based race with maybe 20 laps to go, for sure, I'd say, yeah, why not? Get 4 tires, get a full tank of fuel. It's not that, though. You can't plan for a green flag run, or you can't plan for a caution-filled run. You got to plan for green flag, but nonetheless, it's going to be interesting. 12 and a half minutes left. Are we going to see another wad up of the field? We're back to green flag racing, and Jake Mackey leads the way with Philip Beaver right alongside on the outside line as they storm out of the tri-oval into turn 1. Some swapping of positions, outside line getting very segmented. They all want to go with the train on the bottom. I mean, that outside line broke up so quickly, and all of a sudden you've got a driver going way up high trying to get to the middle. Are we seeing 3 lines start to form here, Derek?
You could end up seeing 3 lines form here, and it's just a matter of getting a little patient here. It feels like the cool thing to do, to dump a line and get inside and make it happen. But this top line's already back to almost normal, and they'll get a push moving here in the next lap or so and push these drivers around. And then it'll be even up once again here. But there's almost a 3rd line. Is that a driver in the middle? I know, maybe not. This driver moving up is what I saw. I apologize.
You are all set with just 11 and a half minutes to go in this race. They're starting to find some movement and some speed and momentum on that outside line. You just have a feeling that someone's going to try and go into the middle sooner rather than later. I mean, you got to think of it this way. 6.5 minutes left to get a mulligan on your mistake, because after that, race would be over on a caution.
Yeah, and that is one way of looking at it. It's sort of like the virtual way of thinking that rain is coming, right? You have to plan for those moments when it could rain and stop a race. Well, we don't have rain here, but we do have that yellow where we won't get moving again. So it's sort of the same idea. But look at this now. That top lane is back up and formed up here. I believe that's Stephen Kirby on the outside, I believe, and doing a great job here. Is that Kirby or is that Maine up top? Or Mackey, pardon.
That is on the top side. It's, I believe, Stephen Kirby is on the outside, and Jake Mackey's on the bottom. So that's what we're currently seeing right now with that 109 machine and the 13 just kind of trading blows back and forth. I just don't feel, I see the loyalty, right? You see the drivers wanting to go with Mackey on the top side, and then you've got Kirby getting involved, Tanner Johnson and Marty Calvert in that second row in behind. You just have a feeling that one of these drivers very soon is going to try and go to the middle, because there's just no movement except for one spot at a time, or, big runs are going to happen. And where are they going to seek with 10 minutes exactly to go?
Yeah, I agree with you. Someone's going to make a move. I almost think it's more going to be a top lane forming than a middle. You see Tanner Johnson now cuts off the top lane, and now he wants to lead up here, and he will probably do so once again. Killed a little bit of momentum in that bottom lane, so now he'll get a small run here. And that's a good thing to talk about. Whenever you dump a line like that, 2 things happen. If you don't, well, there's your middle lane.
There we go. There is that middle lane, and now we're seeing Tanner Johnson back to fighting for the lead of this race. This is where things are going to get a little bit too hectic for some's liking, but with 9.5 to go here, you have to go for it. You have to make a move. That 3rd lane has been broken up just a little bit, but we've seen them be able to compete. As Johnson, no, he tried to go back to the bottom. The big one starts up front. Big caution, Latchall to the lead. Trucks flipping side over side. Oh no. All of it because Johnson thought he was clear.
And that's the danger of moving lines. We see it all the time, is moments like that. And you'll see here, drivers are slowly now trying to get back turned around and see if they can finish this race. Because while we do have a drop week in PRL, you don't want to have to use it if you can. You want to get every point possible and see what comes of it here. But that's the that was a much bigger wreck than the first one for our second caution. I'm excited to see here. Obviously, we think we already know the identifier is going to be Johnson moving lanes, and I think he's already taken credit for it. But I'm excited to see the replay here and see what happens. Watch your bottom. Watch the top. There's Johnson moving down, and yep, it's not clear. Cleared himself across the bumper of another driver, and oh, look at that.
Oh, man, it's just such a shame because Tanner Johnson was brilliant in this race, made a brilliant move to get to where he needed to be. It was wrong. It was the wrong timing to move down to the bottom. And, man, it hurts to see a simple mistake like that.
It does. You know, we talked a little bit, by the way, about drivers who are patient and waiting for the wreck to happen. If we can maybe under yellow get a shot from Zach Panzarella and watch the calamity happen. Zach must have knew something was coming because he just sort of parked the car a little bit and kind of waited for it all to happen in front of him. It's a really cool shot to see if we'll get it on the broadcast or not. But, well, new leaders, new names up top. Ryan Latham, Mike Toomer, two names we've not talked about. There's Patrick Calgary. Here's Zach Panzarella, by the way. Watch this, Dylan. Going to watch it up here. The wreck's going to happen. Panzarella's not that far off the draft. He just sort of blows it down. Wait for it. Wait for it. I'm going to park it right here. Now it's more like a Walmart parking lot. It's going to kind of move my way around. Waiting for it. Waiting for it. Stuck behind this guy. Oh, nope. They wrecked. Okay, I'm done. Here I go.
That is...
And just like that, you know what? Some people hate that strategy of laying back, but he's got a clean truck.
What a mess. Seriously, what a mess that was. What did you mention earlier? That usually the front is where it's cleanest?
That's what people think. That's what they think, right? And look at McGarvey here. Let's watch the... He gets down on the apron. Man, look at that. So much smoke it's hard to see around.
So the
and
truck
he just parks the truck.
Went on the side, and I thought it flipped again, but it did not. Surprising
That's
that.
Pansy.
Surprising
that. It was
that
like a fight at a Waffle House right there.
Yeah, fight at a Waffle House?
That's what that looked like. You've never seen a fight at a Waffle House before?
I mean, I don't go seeking fights at Waffle House. I haven't been involved in a fight at a Waffle House, but...
Yet.
Oh, man. You know, my mentor, my former mentor in motorsports broadcasting, Rick Eshelman, used to have a saying that, and I might disrespect his legacy by speaking his saying, but they're scattered, splattered, and smothered in the corner. Like syrup on a waffle or something like that. But that's, oh, goodness.
Whoa. That's Stacy Hunter.
Mm-hmm. What a wild-looking wreck with the sun.
Nothing you can do about that, by the way. Nothing you can do about that when it happens, except for just kind of hold on or let go and let it happen. And hope you're not in VR.
Well, if you're in VR, it just adds to the experience.
Just close your eyes.
Or open your eyes and hope you don't throw up.
Yeah, right?
Oh, man. Well... Do
you have a favorite way to order at the Waffle House, by the way? Have you been to a Waffle House?
I mean, yes, I've been to a Waffle House, but maybe no more than 10 times in my life. In my 25 years. I don't know if I've been to a Waffle House more than 10 times.
That's disappointing.
I know. I'm in the South, too. There's a multitude of Waffle Houses within a few miles of me.
No, I almost said a bad word here. There's no darn excuse for that. Watch this here from a different angle. There's Stacy Hunter. This is going to be the same truck again. Just the wreck happens. Nothing Stacy can do.
Kind of got lifted up, too.
Yeah.
It was a bunch of trucks that got underneath. And, well, the funny thing about restarting with just a couple minutes to go in this race is that there's a lot of damaged cars that didn't get much repaired that are starting in somewhere on the lead lap, because we still have 24 cars out of the 28 that took the start of this race that will be on the lead lap here. Some of them damaged, some of them just light damage, but for the most part, Ryan Latshaw was the one who got away from that the cleanest and the clearest. Just scooted on by, reminiscent of Austin Dillon in the rain race at Daytona the other year.
Yeah, that's kind of what it reminds you of, right? That's a good analogy for that, is what it reminded you of here. So you're right. And to come back to your point about some damaged trucks on this restart, what's going to happen is they're going to have a hard time getting started. And they're maybe not going to get moving as fast as a truck behind them who's going to be impatient, because this is the last restart. No matter what happens here, if we go yellow again, we're done. So with about 3 minutes left on the clock here, now the pressure's really on. It's, everyone's going to want to move here. You're right. There could be some trucks that don't get moving that, you know, that just, I don't know.
Well, coming out of the short shoot here, and we've got maybe 4 laps to go in this race at Daytona. Will we see them go 4 laps under green flag condition? Not sure. Caution ends the race. We're back to green flag racing here in the final few minutes of the race here at Daytona. Into the lead, Latshaw continues to hold it. Gets a really solid run heading into turn 1, but they're trying to storm back. Mike Toomer, some contact between he and P2, Patrick Cowgill. And we talk about Cowgill. He started way in the back of this race. He's all of a sudden fighting for the win. And uh-oh, did Latshaw get a bit too far out in front, Derek?
He might have. That's a good thing to talk about that we haven't yet. You leave that gap and that draft will come around and suck you up pretty fast here. But you're right, Cowgill doing a great job here trying to keep or take back that points lead, pardon me. And a P2 finish will definitely help with that. We'll come around here again with a little less than 2 minutes to go. I'm guessing probably 3 to go at the line. We'll keep an eye on Barney the Flagman. But man, they are still all right there together.
Yeah, we'll definitely get 3 laps of green flag racing left if that's what happened. You see all those trucks right there. I mean, they've completely lost all the speed from being involved in that wreck. But we go back to this lead battle. Latshaw still leads. Patrick Cowgill second in tow on that bottom line. Mike Toomer Jr. trying to get things moving on the top.
Great move here, and lots of trucks moving in the back now. This bottom lane is really starting to move here, and they're leaving that top lane behind. There's lots of bumping, lots of swinging of trucks going on. Look at this now. This bottom lane's now cleared by 3 trucks, and there's Marty Calvert back to leading the top lane. I think I've said that before.
It's not always the smartest move as a driver goes into the middle, almost wrecking. They got to hold it, save it. No, they're not going to save it. Caution comes out, race is over. It looks like Ryan Latshaw will win this one at Daytona as Barney waves the yellow flag. Patrick Cowgill currently being shown as third, but no, back into second at the time of caution. They'll keep going until they cross the line after the time expires, which I think will still be in 2 laps time. But Latshaw's going to win this one as long as he keeps it under power.
Yeah, as long as he keeps it under power, that's right. And I suspect he will. There's no reason why he won't. So they'll probably, I don't know if they're going to make it around here or not. It'll be this time or next time that checker will fly. They already caught the pace track. It'll be this time. But yeah, Latshaw, Cowgill, Tom and Massey, by the way, a new name up front. And there's going to probably be some upset drivers, by the way, Dylan. If you watch this replay, there's the wreck, and then there's some post-wrecking that some drivers may be mad that happens to them because it could affect some spots here. So we'll wait and see. You'll see some drivers probably sweeping back into their spots here. So I'd expect a few spots to change here. As you see Panzarella coming back up here. That's the big one I saw in the corner of my eye. He got wrecked well after the wreck, so I think they're going to give him his spots back.
Well, I'm never excited if I ever have to do race control, which hasn't happened yet, ever. But if it did,
thank goodness for that.
Yeah, if it did, thank goodness for that indeed. As the checkered flag, it's not waving, but it certainly is the checkered flag as Ryan Latshaw wins at Daytona International Speedway. Wait a second. Are we really going with another lap?
I was wondering the same thing. I was like, man, is Barney really that kind of guy? Is Barney going to make him go around again?
Lap.
Right?
He certainly is having that.
I think they are. I think they're going around one more time here. I don't think they're done. Because Barney, listen, sometimes Barney misses these guys. Okay, he gets to see them once a week. They're doing a lucky dog around here. That's more interesting to me. So yeah, I don't know. I'm confused. I was trying to be funny about Barney, but listen, this is the thing. When you have all kidding aside, when you have timed races in iRacing, they're not lap based. There's some weird quirks about it that happen in moments like this, and it's not a criticism of anyone. It's just this is how that system works, where it's not as clear cut as a lap based system like we see on the Cup Series on Sunday nights. I mean, it's not going to change anything. That's sort of the weird thing, is it's going to be the same group, but it's just It's an extra
Okay,
lap
checkered
run for
flag is
photos
showing.
for Mr. Hedge, right?
Checkered flag is showing right now.
There he
and
is.
It's being waved by Barney. So the way it
Aggressively,
was,
even.
Yes, that is his. I don't know if he has a mode that is in between on and off.
Right,
for
decaf, my dude.
Yeah, but then what's the point of coffee except for the taste? I guess that would be the taste. Yeah, that's what it would be.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I don't care if it's coffee, tea, soda. If I'm don't hand me the caffeine free stuff. Like that's like sugar free Red Bull. Like what the heck is the point of that, right?
All right, listen. I love.
Come on, you're not a sugar-free Red Bull
energy
guy.
drinks.
What's the point?
Because it's not the sugar that you get the caffeine from. That's the point.
You're a menace. Do you know that? You're an absolute
I am
menace.
a menace. And you know who else was a menace in this race, at least with a great strategy at the end to take just fuel? Ryan Latshaw. He wins this race officially now as the checkered flag is being waved by Barney the Flagman. Cowgill in second, big for his championship hopes with Tom Amacy finishing in P3. If we talk about the championship standings, this is a big loss for Stephen Kirby, who has already taken his drop week. He's going to finish 26th. This is effectively championship over for him. He was up by 7 points, too. Cowgill being in second with Kirby finishing in 26th. That's a huge loss right there.
I mean, it's a huge loss. We still got, effectively another super speedway next week, and then almost a third one at Vegas with the way these trucks are going to drive there. So who knows? I'm not about the whole, it's over. Who knows? But yeah, I mean, I understand your point that that's a big points drop, and we'll see what comes of it. What an exciting race we had at Daytona. That's only the first one, and we're going to have a much different race in the way the cars behave coming up in just a moment, Dylan. But first, I think it's time to see our grid.
Well, actually, we'll go through the results here. Latshaw, Cowgill, Tom Amacy, your podium finishers, while Marty Calvert and Andrew Sharp round out the top five. Calvert was up there all day. It's good to see him get a top five. Mike Toomer Jr. finishes in sixth with John Jones, Zach Panzarella, Colton Easterday, and Evan Williams rounding out your top 10 finishing positions. In 11th is Zachary Austin, while Kyle Dewey, the Pennsylvanian, finishes in 12th. Tanner Johnson finishes in 13th after leading most of the day and really starting the big one late on. Nicholas Hunter, Antonio Bannister, Kevin McGarvey, Austin Hunter, Miguel Fonseca, another driver who has, I feel like, seen his championship hopes evaporate or at least get close to being completely dry from this race. He finishes way back in the field in 18th. Mike Richter, Jake Mackey, your top 20 drivers, while Philip Beaver, Jordan Miller, Edward Peltz, Garrett Austin, Brett Adams, Stephen Kirby. Those drivers, the last two, Adams and Kirby, 1 lap down. Stacy Hunter and Matthew Alaka, multiple laps down out of 28 drivers. Unfortunate, but it is Ryan Latshaw's day to celebrate. Congratulations on the win, Ryan. And I got to ask, did you feel like, that strategy call in that final caution, did you take tires? Did you go just fuel only? And what was the thinking behind that?
Yeah, I just took fuel, no tires. And it was just kind of leading up to the last few laps. It was kind of slow running. I felt like, everybody was kind of going like half throttle like the whole race. And so then I just kind of popped out and saw an opening and pushed it 3 wide and was hoping for the best and hope it stuck, and it did.
Definitely stuck there. Now, if you went another 2 laps before that race ended, do you feel like you still were putting yourself in the best situation to win it, or was having the championship contender in Patrick Calgo right behind you with Marty Calvert, who's been up there all day? Did you feel like there was any anxiety going into those potential final 2 laps?
No, I felt pretty good. I mean, they were doing a good job pushing. I feel really good on super speedways and, holding the line and, kind of making it tough to pass. So I felt pretty confident I could probably hold them off, but yeah, it was good racing. So, I wish it would have ended under green, had some good racing, but I'm definitely happy with the, outcome.
Well, Ryan, congratulations on the victory here. And hey, another super speedway next week. You feel like you can go back to back?
Well, I'm going to try for it. I sure hope so.
All right, you heard it right there from Ryan Latchall, the winner of tonight's race at Daytona. Congratulations once again, and best of luck in the next two.
Thank you.
Of course. Ryan, it's his first win in PRL competition. If you look through all the drivers, 396 coming into tonight that have won in Precision Racing League history. He has now become the 397th, I think. Accuracy be darned. But nonetheless, Patrick Cowgill is with Derek Watson.
Well, Patrick, we see you back here in the room. Maybe not the P1 you were hoping for, but listen, a great, points night for you. How crazy was that into that whole race? It was crazy the whole night, right?
Yeah, I got a penalty, so I had to start from the back, which I'm not really used to at super speedways because I hate when they get that little split going and you end up dropping back and lose the front pack. And so it was a little bit different. Cautions just happened to fall in the perfect spot.
Yeah, they really did for you. Of course, it's been a really busy week and emotional week, both for you personally and, of course, the family. You had this, obviously the stuff with your dad. You had your own personal medical stuff you've been talking about throughout the week. And, of course, Daytona's no easy race. They're probably just another exhausting night there for the 31 truck, right?
Yeah, there that last little run, I was getting a little nervous because it seemed like the guys on top trying to side draft, they weren't really side drafting. They were more trying to do pit maneuvers because I got tapped a couple of times. So kind of surprised that I survived that.
Well, we go from one super speedway at Daytona to the next one in Atlanta. It's a little different, but still a super speedway. What's your hopes there?
I don't really think of Atlanta as a super speedway because you still have to let off the throttle through the corners. And to me, that's not a super speedway. Yes, it races like a super speedway, but I don't think of it quite as like a super speedway because I hate super speedways.
All right. Well, that's a good way to look at it, I guess. Well, listen, great job tonight. I'm sure we'll talk this week, and great run.
Yep. Thank you, guys.
All right, that's Patrick Cowgill, who finished second tonight, probably retaking the points lead. We'll look into that later. But now let's go ahead and catch up with the driver who finished third. That's going to be Tom Amassi. Let's bring Tom in. Tom, P3 at a super speedway. Good job, buddy.
Yeah, I'm really happy about that. It's been a pretty rough season this season for me, and finally I got a top 10 and even a top 5.
Yeah, top 3 even as up on the podium is a great run here tonight. So when that last green flag fell with about 3 minutes to go, was the strategy just hold on for dear life?
The strategy at the beginning was just riding the rear. I was in last place, rode the rear most of the race, and then when the last restart happened, I got somewhere in the top 10. I said, "It's time, go time." We had, I just put it to the bottom and held it down there.
All right. Well, great run here tonight. First time we've had a chance to interview you in a while. So obviously a strong finish. So do you enjoy tracks like this, or is this just a bit of blind luck?
Oh no, I do like the plate tracks. A lot of guys, of course, don't have that same feeling as I do. But yeah, sure, I enjoy them.
Well, listen, great run tonight. Always great to see you up here in the podium, and we'll see you next week in Atlanta.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And thank my teammates, DDI Motorsports. And tonight I changed to a Ford, so maybe that made a difference. I went from the Chevy to a Ford. And then I want to say happy Valentine's Day to my wife, which I'll have to go talk to her about my finish here shortly.
All right. Well, listen, great job tonight, and we'll see you next week.
10-4. Thank you.
All right, that is Tom Amassi, and that is the last of the interviews for the Truck Series race, Dylan. And now it's time to transition into our next show.
Yes, sir. We've got 55 minutes more of racing action at Daytona International Speedway, this time with Xfinity Series race cars in the PRL Grand National Series. That's what we've got in Precision Racing League action on this beautiful Wednesday night. But in Sim, Wednesday day, Dylan Coyle, Derek Watson. Wow, that's a brutal Twitter X username you've got there, Derek.
Oh, there's a whole story behind it.
I don't know it.
Oh, I can give you the whole Justin Prince rundown. Okay.
Okay.
Let's just say The Rock. Let's just say The Rock is a jerk who tried to glom his way into WrestleMania, and we didn't let that happen. That's all. That's all I can tell you. There's plenty of people out there who know exactly what I'm talking about, and it's been a long week of wrestling action. That's all I can say.
All right, copy. 10-4 on that. Is it Cody Rhodes? I don't know.
That's good. Yeah, it is Cody Rhodes. I'm proud of you.
Oh, there we go. I appreciate that.
Even a blind squirrel finds a nut every now and then.
Some college friends of wrestling, so I know some things. The Grand National Series, let's take a look at the standings. Not as close as the PRL Truck Series standings are and was, but it's still fairly close between Richard Regan Jr. and Bradley Holly with Brandon Bowie in tow. Here's something interesting, though, Derek. The drop week after being added kind of last second, which was a controversial move to say the least, Regan Jr. and Bradley Holly have both used their drop week, both missing round 4. Brandon Bowie's worst race was a 25-point week in round 3. So if there is a mess up or a mistake from Regan Jr. or Bradley Holly, Brandon Bowie gets really right back in the conversation instead of just being 22 points back.
Yeah, that is a very real possibility here. So this could open up very easily. You see down Dustin Scruggs, by the way, tied with Ted Lowendeck. Ted's had a great couple of weeks of running here. James Morgan only 2 points back from them. Andrew Phipps, Dunkelberger, Matt Gagnon, and Steve Loving. This really, I mean, top to bottom, this is only about 50 points across these 10 drivers. With 3 races to go, when there's still bonus points for qualifying, for leading a lap, for leading the most laps, this is wide open. Like, this will not be how this top 10 ends. I'm excited about this. The team points, however, this is also pretty close at the top, is Regan Bogue and Bowie Esports Alpha, only 6 points apart, according to commentator math. And then you got Whataback back row back there. They're battling with Regan Bogue 2. Only 4 points different, pardon me. And then on back, look at it, Dylan. It is tight, really up and down this board. Maybe not all for the lead, but everyone's battling somebody.
Yeah, everyone is battling somebody, and that's what we love to see. And, you know, I want to mention about Regan Bogue and Bowie Esports Alpha. You know, of course, we've got Brandon Bowie. He is the titular reason it's called Bowie Esports Alpha. Andrew Phipps is running with him as well, and as well as Ryan Dunkelberger. 3 of those drivers, all in the top 8. When we get to Regan Bogue Motorsports, I mean, the biggest thing for him and you know, Richard Regan Jr., who has the titular title for that team, he's got no one that's kind of with him in terms of the team standings until you go back to Reese Bogue, who's back in 13th. Yes, there's Regan Bogue developmental drivers and Regan Bogue Motorsports 2, but Regan Bogue Motorsports as a whole is really getting propped up right now by Richard Regan Jr. and Reese Bogue. Both of them, of course, titular reasons for the team name. So it is interesting. As a whole, Bowie Esports Alpha can probably provide 3 strong drives every single race. Reese Bogue, who's currently 13th in the standings, has not had the season I think he usually expects to have, but Richard Regan Jr. being P1 helps in that regard. But 6 points separating, it is quite interesting. Qualifying, 28 seconds to go. And yes, we did miss a little bit of that for my monologuing, and you, Sly Dog, you caught me monologuing right there. But qualifying was almost over anyway, as 15 seconds are left, and there's no drivers really on track except for Dominic Beijing, I believe, trying to make one last lap happen, Derek.
Yeah, Reese Bogue sort of cooling down the lap as well. He's on track, but not making any run as well. I mean, Reese Bogue, right, not the season he's wanted, has definitely started to put it together a little bit, but maybe a little too late to have a points title run for himself. But it doesn't mean the team is out of it altogether. So let's go and take a look at the grid and see how qualifying went. And let's get set. I'm excited for this, a much different race than what we saw before.
Richard Regan Jr. by 2 1/1000ths of a second over Doug Evans. They lock out the front row, while Reese Bogue We talk about him maybe not having the best of seasons, starts right in behind his Regenboog teammate. In fourth, Bradley Holly trying to fight for that championship along with Regan Jr. We'll start in row 2 with Steve Loving and Thomas Sink. Your first 3 rows, Matt Gagnon and Jeff Evans will finish or start 7th and 8th, while Nick Bayer and Colton Lane round out your top 10 starting positions. Adam Zemke in that 57 Chevrolet Camaro will start alongside Joey Tebbin in the 06 machine, who is not wanting to be available for any green flag broadcast bits tonight. Dalton Geyer and James Morgan in row 7 with Daniel Knight, Jim Westerfield, Ted Lowendick, Nick McLaughlin, your top 18. And then Dominic Beijing, Mark Kalin, Jacob Emery, and Josh Tellez, your 22-car starting field for tonight's 55-minute affair at Daytona International Speedway. It's a long race here. You are probably, along with me, Derek, expecting a little bit of chaos with these cars handling differently than trucks and not being as easy to push, I should say.
There's a few things that will be in play. As I've said, it's a much different race, and you're right. One of them is going to be that with the way these cars are curved in the front and the back, you can't just lay on someone and push like you can in a truck. They don't get together as well. You will spin someone here. These cars also don't suck up in the draft quite as well as the trucks do. So it'll be a little harder to make a run happen. It'll still happen, but it's not going to be maybe as with ease. The drivers need to be a little bit more calculated in the runs they're going to make. So there's a few differences we'll talk about as the night goes on. Of course, also a little more horsepower. Obviously still the need for a pit stop. There's a lot going on here. And I think maybe with all due respect to these guys, maybe a higher likelihood these guys are going to get aggressive a little sooner.
You know, it is interesting, right? It's not often that we've seen the truck and Grand National Series be at the same track each race night, but the fact that they are at the same super speedway is a unique observation opportunity to see how these guys handle compared to the truck drivers, which, by the way, I was really impressed with the truck series tonight and the level of aggression they showed, but also the level of patience they showed as well. And that really showed some skilled drivers and skilled drives. You know, often we talk about super speedways being, as we see Regan Jr. there, being a lot of luck revolving around it, which is true, but you see the same guys up front every single race, and there's a reason for that.
Oh yeah, you do, man. There's an animal running right through Doug Evans' room right there. He should probably be aware of that. That animal got stuck.
It's a goat, right? And he's staring at a screen.
It's a reindeer, isn't it?
There is a space shuttle and R2D2, because they exist in the same universe, by the way, in Bradley Holly's perspective, which I mean, your eyes do not get drawn to Bradley there. It gets drawn to everything else in behind. Oh, I love how driver cams show some personality. We definitely get that there with Bradley Holly. And of course, Doug Evans. Richard Regan Jr., though, we saw first. He will lead the field to green flag racing here. 55 minutes, Daytona. We're underway. This field is fast and ready to continue moving. The entire group is still with each other, 22 cars deep, 11 cars in each line. It's exciting with one lap complete here at Daytona.
Yeah, exciting indeed. You see it's taking a little bit longer for these cars to wind up, maybe not as close together as their truck counterparts were a little bit ago, but oh, there's a big move to the inside. Saw someone swing it to the inside and doing a great job. I think it was Thomas Sink, I think is who that was, swinging to the inside here. But right now, Richard Regan's trying to keep up with this lead here, and it's neck and neck, and we'll see who leads this lap here. Doing a great job here right now, as it's already ramping up here in Xfinity Series. There's lots of close battles. Look at that, as you said, look how identical these lines are. That's so impressive, Dylan.
Yeah, you're absolutely right there, Derek. It's a lot less shuffling and looking on the outside, the inside. You still see it, right? You can't get a perfect line, but for the most part, they're evenly spaced out. They're not really, trying to move in or out of line. I wonder if part of that is because of the cars, but also because they don't have to be as aggressive as early as the Truck Series drivers did.
Well, yeah, that extra 15 minutes on the clock definitely helps with that, right? You don't feel that need to be as aggressive because you have a little bit more time, and you'll run a few more laps, both due to the time and due to the speed of the vehicle. So you don't feel as pressured as maybe you once would, in that truck race. But again, right at the line, they're neck and neck. And that time it'd be Regan here. And I think that's just good learning moments for Doug Evans. Doug has really had a down season. He's been involved in a lot of things that aren't his fault this season, honestly. I mean, Doug really's hit just about everything except for the lottery in this season, I think.
That's wild.
Go out there and hit the pace car, Doug.
Oh, man, you got to go
now
out
listen,
there
and I say that, and I've
right?
seen a lot of Doug's wrecks. Doug's not the cause of them. Doug just sort of gets caught up in other people's carnage, and at times has shown a lot of frustration over it. And just said this is right. But look at that, down to the bottom. Took Bradley Holly with him.
Yeah, Doug Evans, one win over the course of his PRL career, and he's going to the lead of this race. Pretty easily found his way into the lead with help of that 184 machine of Bradley Holly. And how nice is it to see a guy like Doug Evans up there battling for the lead of this race early on, but he hasn't had the best of seasons for him. His best result coming in round 2, which it's interesting to me, right? We usually see Doug have a better season than what he's having, but a 13th place is all he managed to put together at Indianapolis earlier this year.
And that's the appeal to super speedway racing, by the way, right? As Colton Lane now takes the lead, is that this sort of the track itself is sort of the equalizer of everybody. You have drivers who maybe don't always get to run well at other tracks, who somehow just always seem to pop up and make their names known at a super speedway. Now we've seen Doug Evans lead, we've seen Colton Lane lead. And there's James Morgan, by the way, up to the lead, doing a great job here. And the bottom's checked up a little bit here.
Yeah, absolutely. It's checked up, but also because a lot more drivers decided to go down to the bottom. I mean, it's an accordion effect, right? And I say that multiple times, and it's to try and give you a visual, too, of what's exactly happening as the 35 of Jim Westerfield says, I want to be the head of that accordion. Kind of left the 12 out to dry. James Morgan will fall back just a bit. Colton Lane trying to get reconnected here up front, but leaves a big gap that's starting to get sized down by Doug Evans between he and Lane. You never want to be too far out in front because then you get absolutely swallowed up by the big crowd coming in behind, and this might happen again.
Yeah, there's two things in play there. I agree with you, by the way, that Morgan really should have pulled down with Westerfield, and they probably should have ran the bottom line and made that happen. At the same time, now if you're Morgan, once again, I talked about it in the last race, there's some mental notes happening. Morgan now knows that Westerfield is maybe not committed. Westerfield didn't, indicate to Morgan, hey, let's move down. He just sort of went and did it on his own. So Morgan may have that mental memory, and if you're Jim Westerfield who needs a push later, maybe you don't want to ask James Morgan to push you around.
Yeah, not at all something that, is a massive problem. Look at that real quick. That inside line is completely filled with probably 2/3 of the field right now, if not more. And I guess it's just they're trying to ride around, right? There's no need to push it right now. But there still are 5 drivers trying to make that outside line work up front, which I know, right? 5 drivers versus 16, 17 drivers. It's usually not a recipe for success, but now 4 drivers, but hold on, they're more easily able to stay connected, while a group of 15, there's a lot more fluctuating happening. So this is still not necessarily an unfair battle.
No, you're right. That's exactly a great point, is that this group of 4, if they could get caught together here, there's less likelihood they're going to check each other up. There's less likelihood they're going to need to create that accordion. And that accordion is going to happen all across the bottom lane with different people checking up or someone swinging out of line or whatever you have. Will keep that top lane possibly competitive for a bit. You see Bradley Holly here with the automatic moving camera showing back and forth between himself, and then you can kind of see what he sees through the sim right there with all those monitors he has available to him. But Morgan's doing a great job of holding this top lane. They said only 4 cars. Now, what Morgan maybe wishes could happen is that he could back that car up just a smidgen to the car behind him, the 37 vehicle of Nick McLaughlin. And hopefully Nick could give him a better push, but they're doing a great job here to staying competitive.
Did you notice that? Holly actually dipped his left side tires onto the apron through the tri-oval. That was a little scary. Nothing.
Look at that. Now Westerfield thinking about moving up. Saw that.
Yeah, absolutely. Westerfield has proven that he is unafraid of moving lanes and shifting where he has to be. It's just, do you want to show that you're willing to do that so early? I say yes, right? You never know where you're going to potentially be when the big one happens. It could be at the front, could be in the middle. Let's watch again with Bradley Holly's perspective here. Even though it's blown out contrast-wise, we can still kind of see what is exactly going on. See that it's through the tri-oval last time. This is this time by.
And look at all the additional info that Bradley got right there
that was
on his screen through the overlays. That was that was a weird transition, wasn't it? Caught me off guard, but all the data that Bradley has on his screen, if you can go back there for a second, maybe all the additional overlays he has to help him gather info here. And you see it there. And look at it on the screen. You got extra dials going on, extra tachometers. What else do you see here? We see the digital dash from iRacing there. So lots of info going on that screen. It's almost, in a way, this is a battle you face as a driver sometimes, Dylan. When is too much too much? When is it so much you almost can't focus on what's happening in front of you from analysis paralysis?
Dane Baird, our own Christopher Nolan, with these tricks of the trade, switching to the in-car cam after going through the external in-car cam, if you will. Great move right there. Bradley Holly went up top, and now he's pushing Doug Evans again. These two have found themselves pretty connected. It's been solid so far.
Yeah, it has been solid so far, right? Doug has really benefited from being in front of Bradley Holly, who for now is comfortable being the pusher of this group. Now, the challenge they face is making sure that car third line up. Never mind, there's Bradley. Bradley's now decided he wants to move to the bottom and left room for Doug. And they're down there together. They have left the 37 behind. I was going to say that the best benefit that they're getting is that the cars behind are not pushing the pusher.
It is interesting, though, because for the first time in what feels like a long time, Doug Evans and Bradley Holly have gotten disconnected. And now Evans is being pushed by someone he is not used to getting pushed by before. I believe it's Nick McLaughlin. But does that lead to maybe a little, more lack of comfort for somebody like Evans, who has gotten used in the first 10 minutes of this race to Bradley Holly pushing, now has somebody else pushing as we go back into the mid-pack of the field to Gagnon?
It can. It just depends on how, if you're used to Bradley pushing or what's happening here. Look at that outfit. What? That is classy. Look at the gloves. Really don't match the outfit, though, do they?
No, I don't believe they do, but he should have had these white gloves on. That would be just perfect. Look at the ponytail up front, the unicorn horn, if you will. Yeah, so this is the ponytail.
We confirmed the ponytail after, I think, last week, 2 weeks ago, when Justin and I were like, what is that? And in fact, it is a ponytail that Matt has going on in the front there. Sort of like the opposite of a mullet, right? Now he's got what's the mullet? Business in the front, party in the back. But now he's got party in the front.
That's amazing.
Business in the back.
I am so happy that he has provided us a look at his in-car camera. That was wonderful. I did not expect that. As you see McLaughlin getting a little bit squirrely there, right in behind Doug Evans. They're still trying to go through the understanding phase, but McLaughlin looks a little bit eager to get by Doug Evans. I would not be shocked. Look at that. He goes up high, tries to get some clean air to that front opening, get some more air into that naturally aspirated engine in the Xfinity Series race car that he's got. I would not be surprised if at the first moment he possibly can, he tries to get by Doug Evans. And now we see from Evans' perspective what he sees, and all he can see right now is clear track ahead, but that left side has two cars kind of alongside him.
It makes me wonder if Nick is trying to kind of coach Doug live in the moment of, hey, track out further. Let's get more speed out of the corner and make a run happen. You could be right. It could be Nick wants around him, or it could be that he's just trying to kind of coach Doug in his own way. Hey, move up. Like, let's move up here and get a run moving. I'm not sure which it is.
I think it's a really, really good point right there, Derek, because you lose speed the more you turn your car to the left. Isn't that the accurate statement to say? You want to keep that wheel as straight as possible. And the more you kind of turn in, the harder it is to hold that speed. And Daytona is momentum-based. The Xfinity Series cars are maybe not as much about momentum as, say, the Cup or Truck Series race cars, but in the Grand National Series, I think drivers are just antsy very early on. It's important to hold for another 42 minutes, though.
Oh, what makes me nervous about this, though, is that McLaughlin's up there on the top right quarter panel of Doug Evans. And we saw this in the truck race. Well, we saw in the truck race where if you hit that quarter panel, you're going to send Doug Evans flying to the inside. He's going to basically be a missile taking out someone on the inside lane if you do that incorrectly. So it's almost like I'm just saying, don't bump drafting, because if you do, it's going to go bad. Like I'm just, that's what's going to happen here. So I'm not sure. It really does make me think Nick just feels a little more comfortable, a little bit higher than Doug does. And until they get linked up correctly, they're going to continue to slowly lose ground on that inside lane unless someone wants to move up in front of Doug and kind of take charge of running that line.
It's really interesting when we try and talk about the art of drafting and bump drafting and sucking up to the back of another driver or car. Doing so, you can't really properly lock as you could potentially do in a real world race. Now, Nick is being reminded as we're hearing reports all over the radio about his temperatures, which is probably why he's trying to get a gasp of air and go up to the outside. That's quite high. That was a little bit too high for my liking. He's still trying to look out wide right here, but then looks to the bottom. I think he's just trying to get air in it. And there's no need to really push to the front at this moment. Just hang out there, right? You want to hear something, Derek? We talk about locking bumpers, and that is completely outlined clearly in bold and underlined in the at least the Xfinity Series Daytona, crew chief handout. Legitimately bold, underlined, exclamation point, no, and capitalized, no locking bumpers. So you'll still probably see some teams and drivers try it if they can, because that gives you an advantage. I don't know about that here.
Yeah, and of course, the reason why it's outlawed in real life, as we said in the beginning of this broadcast, these bumpers don't line up perfectly. And the more you try to hook bumpers like that, the more dangerous it becomes that you're going to spin someone without trying. And that's why they don't want it happening. So you can bump draft, but the moment you make that contact, you have to kind of lift off and make space again, or NASCAR will look down. And of course, in PRL, that's not a rule. But as a whole with these cars, my experience with the Xfinity or the Grand National cars, is that it's harder to get up on someone in these cars. It's harder to really get up there and lay on someone's bumper than maybe the trucks, for example. It's a real effort to get up there and make it happen. Now, as we're continuing to run around here, almost 20 minutes into this race here, I'm wondering, and Jim Westerfield seems very, very happy behind Bradley Holly. I'm wondering if there's a moment where Westerfield decides he wants to move up and lead the top lane and get that momentum back here, because I can't think he'll be happy just running around forever. But 20 minutes in, and yeah, I mean, it's mostly a single line race as the top lane continues to fall back down them, but a very calm race. No big incidents, no big moments. Everyone just sort of getting their feet wet.
It is interesting, though, that 4-car outside line has stayed intact and as competitive as that inside line. Now, in saying that, the inside line has, and honestly, there are 2 groups that have formed, right? You've got that first inside line, which is full of 7 drivers, that outside line as well with 4. But there is some separation to the long single file train that is in tow with that primary inside line. They're starting to catch a little bit of speed right now, so it might rejoin at the back, but it does look like there is a first and second group of cars that is starting to form. I don't think any of them want that second group to get disconnected from the first, though.
Well, maybe they do. That's the thing I was wondering in my head, and that sounds crazy, right? But maybe they do want to be disconnected. Maybe, as we saw with Tom Massey or Zach Panzarella or others in the truck race, maybe they do want to be disconnected. Maybe they're okay with that little bit of gap, so they think they have time to check up or turn to the left or turn to the right or whatever they got to do to avoid a wreck. Maybe they don't want to be connected. Well, that is a strategy, right?
Yeah, and I agree with you, Derek. But the question remains to me, how disconnected is too disconnected? Because there's around
if a yellow comes out,
well, you're fine.
Right.
But you also, if a yellow doesn't come out, you don't want to be completely out of the picture when it comes to potentially being able to compete for this win at the end. So what is it? Right now it's half a second. Do you feel like it's either 2 seconds is maybe the sweet spot where you can work together to get back in, a second and a half? I'm not sure.
Well, of course, within the terms of iRacing, 1 second is the gap where you kind of no longer feel the draft from the car in front of you. So a lot of people would tell you 1 second is the moment. I would say probably 2 is the most I'd want to be if I didn't think there was a possibility of a yellow, because with that line behind you being single file, you could push pretty hard and you sort of hope that maybe their line in front of you gets a little wiggly and, it kind of creates that checkup you need. I wouldn't want to be any more than 2 unless I was going to take the route of thinking, hey, listen, there's probably a caution coming. I'm okay. I'm just going to ride that caution out, and then group it back together. But right now we're all good here. So now, listen, once again, as a truck race, we have to have a pit stop somewhere. It would be green or yellow flag laps. And there could be some drivers already talking about that because, once again, we saw the strategy play out, in the last race where actually none of us thought about it. 0 tires was the answer that won the race. So already there's probably drivers thinking, listen, that guy went 0 tires and he won the race. Do I need tires? When do I take gas? Do I do it under green? Do I do it under yellow? When do I do it? There's all these questions already creeping into the driver's head while they're trying to be busy holding a line at Daytona.
And all these drivers have held their line quite admirably in this race. It's been solid, right? There hasn't been much peeking out. Maybe you could say, yes, Nick McLaughlin has done a little bit of that on that high side when it comes to Doug Evans, but currently Evans is right there side by side for the lead, and that is because that group of 4, that line of 4 drivers on the outside, which has gone completely unbothered for the last 10 minutes, has been doing a fantastic job of keeping together. And I think that is Nick just trying to go out to the outside to get air, maybe not even coaching. It keeps the temperatures down, and hey, they're still competitive.
The one thing that really strikes me about this race that's different from the truck race you saw a moment or an hour or so ago, by the way, is how these guys seem okay with where they are for the moment. Listen, looking at your pylon on the left side of your screen, there's still some red and some green, don't get me wrong, but it's nothing near like what it was in the truck race. There's not that many guys moving around. Everyone's in line. I'm starting to think as we're watching this happen here, and call me crazy, I think there's some fuel conservation going on. I think that's why we're seeing some people lay back and sort of maybe run 80% throttle. Starting to feel like in my head that we're starting to see some fuel conservation going on so that they can have the least amount of time possible on pit road.
that is the question. When do they go down into pit road? And it's probably coming sooner rather than later. 24 laps on this stint, on this run so far. And actually, I kind of lied about that. It's more like 27 laps. They're estimated to go green if it goes the entire way, 69 laps. If that is the case, they all have to make it to 35 laps before they head down pit road, at least to make sure that they can go there till lap 69 on a one-stopper. It might even go down to 68 laps based on pit road time. So you see a little bit of shaking in behind. That's Westerfield, who is in the rear view mirror of Holly, looking a little bit too antsy, and that is the reverse transition. I like that. Not as much as this from here to the in-car can, but I'm sure Dane will provide us, producer Dane.
Really the simple things in life that amuse you, isn't it? It's really just...
The simple things in life amuse me, and I love that about myself. I'm a simple man, and I loved that. I got really excited again about seeing that. That's just awesome, man. I appreciate that Bradley makes it possible for us to be able to do something like that, as Regan Bogue Motorsport completely lined up on the inside. I'll tell you this. Bradley Holly, you got Jim Westerfield, Colton Lane, James Morgan, Doug Evans in the top 5. That's a solid top 5 with drivers you don't always see up there every single week.
No, definitely a couple surprising names and a couple new names maybe this season are up here and leading around. I'm going to make a prediction here that I think if Morgan clears here, there it is. I thought that was going to happen. I started to say it. Morgan's not, I don't see he's impatient, but Morgan wants to lead. He wants to get back up front.
And look at that.
Instantly he pulled up and he got left behind by Doug Evans. Doug said, oh, look, gap in line.
Well, you did mention earlier, Derek, that, hey, maybe James or somebody else, I forget who, would remember a not going with James or James not going with someone. I forget exactly.
With Westerfield, yep.
Yeah. So maybe some drivers saw that and are remembering that, but that outside line can still get regrouped and get moving again with the same speed. Maybe they can also pinch. Remember, side drafting is still a thing. If you get close enough to the cars on your inside, you can kind of pinch them and not only make them kind of squish down to that inside line more than they already are, but you can also take some speed off of them and in turn slow you both down, but slow the inside down a little bit more.
Yeah, that can happen. If used correctly, can be beneficial to you here. But really, McLaughlin's got hooked up with Morgan a little bit better than what I think he was hooked up with Doug Evans. They seem to be moving forward a little bit here. McLaughlin's still swinging out wide. If I was Morgan, I would be all over the radio saying, hey, dude, listen, you can't do that. Like, every time you swing out wide, you break our draft, and you're killing a run. I'd probably be asking him to stop doing that if I was him. But, so I say, alert, by the way, here, breaking news, if you will. Look at Ted Lowendick in the back there. Had been riding pure last in this field. I think Teddy's ready to start racing.
He is. And here's the question. Is he going to be able to get around everyone in that second group? And you see who they are. Regan Jr., Reese Bogue, and, of course, the 27 of Steve Loving. And
there's no banana tonight.
Yeah, no, but amazingly, I mean, that's a ton of speed by yourself on the outside line from Ted Lowendick. And he's probably going to continue taking this momentum maybe into the outside line.
So what that tells me, though, well, I was going to say, what it tells me, though, sorry to cut you off, is it tells me that that theory we had where there's some fuel saving going on, right? Where those guys are maybe 80, 90% throttle, and Ted to say, hey, I'll full throttle it, and I'll find myself a spot in line here. Now, I think we're hearing there's a possibility that pit stops are about to begin. This will be the tricky part, because those guys up top have to pit too, right? They're not immune from pitting. They're going to try to find themselves a spot in line here. But I think right now, go ahead.
Here's my concern, Derek. If they pit now and it goes green the end of the way, they might have to fuel save big time, or they risk having to come down another time. RBM is coming into the pits, we're hearing, and we're seeing it on the leaderboard. Yes, Regan Bogue Motorsports has headed down to pit road. Reese Bogue, Richard Regan Jr., and a lot of their others in the back have gone down into the pits at the end of lap 32. So they got 32 green flag laps, which might be accurate for as hard as they're running. I mean, these cars can go with, braking and being off the throttle around 90 miles on a full tank of fuel. You're barely off the throttle at Daytona. You still can run half throttle if the entire group has to fuel save as well. But 32 laps, that's not enough to then also have to go 36, 37 laps. The rest of the field continues moving. I think, this is my one thought here, that Regenboog Motorsports came down early in the case of a caution coming out and being able to leapfrog everybody else out in front.
Yeah, and it could be that there's a strategy of that in play here, but I want to think maybe they know something we don't, because Richard Regan is the kind of driver who likes to be a little safer in his call sometimes, and obviously fighting for the points, but I guess we'll find out when all is said and done. Now, the other thing it does for them, though, and this is sort of the benefit of any racetrack, it puts them out there by themselves. Now you don't have to worry about all the what-ifs. You don't have to worry about someone side drafting. There's no worry about someone checking up in front of you or anything. You have to kind of come out here and run your own line for a few laps, and eventually you'll merge back in once all the other pit stops happen. And I agree with you, though. 32 is a little earlier than I was expecting, but we'll wait and see how it goes. Right now we got Regenboog Motorsports on the left, get the lead pack on the right. You can kind of see both happening here. Look at this. All this time later, Nick McLaughlin, he's still so far up there. It just, if I were, and I think James Morgan just left him. James, you know what? Like, I want to come up here and help with you, but obviously we're not linked up, and Morgan is pulled to the inside, and now that lane will probably fall apart a little quicker.
I'll be honest, I'm concerned if it goes green for Regenboog Motorsports, unless, no, they're coming down to the pits now. If a caution comes out because of these pit stops, it would turn out very well for RBM, but this front group only went 35 laps. If the secondary group comes down this coming lap, that would mean the max we've seen is 36 laps for any one group of cars. And if we go 69 laps, that's one fewer lap than RBM has to run to finish this race under green flag conditions.
Yeah, you're right. Like I said, I agree with you. This is an early call that sort of caught me off guard here. But look how close they're all drafting together. Now, Richard Regan is going to be the one in trouble, though, because the car who is leading the draft is always going to burn more fuel than the people following in behind. So if anyone's in danger of not making it on gas, it'll be Regan. Here's some more people going down pit road in the back here, so you'll see that happening. James Morgan's now down, and a bunch of others. So this is basically everybody. Everybody's now down pit road. Pit stops are done under green at least, and now it's just about the race and the strategy.
Well, the question is, will RaceSpoke Motorsports scoot out in front? And right now, it looks like that is absolutely what's going to happen after this front six heads down into pit road. So RBM had a really interesting strategy call here. Will everybody else go into the pits? It appears everyone has. So RBM, as they see all those cars coming out of turn one, I think is going to take the lead here.
Yeah, it looks that way, doesn't it? Looks like they're going to take the lead and have that moment here. As now you see the cars in the bottom. They're the ones coming off of pit road. They're nowhere near up to speed, so they're not going to be a factor yet. But they'll try to get up here quickly and suck in that draft.
Almost. Oh, not. Oh. Yeah, they're not going fast enough to block. But yeah, RBM up into the lead of this race. Richard Regan Jr. and RaceSpoke. So it worked out well if they have enough fuel to make it last. But nobody went the distance that we think that RBM is going to have to go if it stays green till the end of this race.
I mean, I'm more hopeful for RaceSpoke or Thomas Sink than I am Richard Regan. If Regan doesn't eventually get back in line and they don't sort of swap this around, Regan would almost definitely not be there. But look at this. Look at P4. RaceSpot's Joey Tebben, part of Ain't No What Up Back Girls. Him and Ted Lowendick and Nick McLaughlin all working together. Joey has found himself up into P4 after pit cycles.
If Joey wins this race, we've got to put a fun little wager. He's got to come on and sing the national anthem before the race starts next time. his punishment for
I think if Joey wins this race, he should have to do a shoey just like his teammate does.
Oh, that is absolutely true. Take his shoe off and go for the shoey. And look at this. The pack has been formed 2x2 for a while back. And this is good. Actually, coming out of the pits and having this many cars, 15 in this pack together, is really impressive.
Yeah, very impressive, right? Just shows how even everything is here and how we all come back together here in this race. Now, up top here, there's Daniel Knight, by the way, Carolina native in the 17 vehicle, name I've not said all night long. Now, he's going to push to the front, and he's going to try and get in front of Regan here. And if I was Regan, I would let him.
23 minutes to go. We've stayed green for 32 minutes in this race. I don't know if I'm a betting man if I'm saying we're going to stay green for 23 more minutes to go. But that outside line is more formed than it has ever been in the last 25 or so minutes of this race, Derek.
Yeah, more cars up there, a little bit more pushing happening. There's a lot of stuff happening in this moment, and some more consistent pushing from the top lane as well really does help it here. You see Nick McLaughlin, by the way, that's a car was sort of in the middle, that red car you saw a moment ago, and he's got it back down to the bottom here. And there, look at that. There's the dominance of the top line. Daniel Knight pulls well ahead here. That's Jeff Evans right behind him. And Jeff, of course, is the son of Doug, so could have a moment here where the family both leads a lap if we're not careful. But Daniel Knight pulled back up here. Daniel Knight's now doing this move that this is my old man moment of the race, Dylan Coyle. I hate that. I'm going to yell at clouds for a second. I know this move was popular with Dale Jr. in real life in the 2000s, this sort of moving up and down and controlling both lanes. But across iRacing, it is unnecessary and dangerous and often leads to nothing good.
Well, I got a news flash for you, old man. It's even more dangerous when you're doing it in the real world. That is very old man yells at cloud as the 17 goes down to the bottom.
Yeah, I mean, of course, it's more dangerous in real life, and I get that. But across iRacing, it's a move that we've all seen on TV, and we all think we can do it. And very few people can do it well. Right. The problem is very few people can do it correctly.
Thank you, Dane. This is a perfect broadcast for you so far.
Back in my day, man, no, I know the move is successful and I get it. Just oftentimes in iRacing, those kind of moves just lead to just a lot more carnage than benefit.
Well, listen, if you've got good drivers and good quality competition, moves like that are fair game to me. I think the problem is just when you've got drivers who aren't necessarily the best at judging when they can do a move like that and when they can't. But that's also true in the real NASCAR world, right? As, oh goodness, look at this. Richard Regan Jr. has dropped into the second row or the other row while Reese Bogue is in that same row, actually. Let me recollect here, because I feel like Regan Bogue Motorsports is going to try and do something to control both lines. They might,
but right now, Reese Bogue, who we said, really at the end of the season is bringing it all back together here into the Reese Bogue that I remember. But here's a great big push. Look at that. And that's going to put Reese Bogue down to the bottom, now leading this race with Regan on the outside. So now teammates 1 and 2 controlling both lanes. But again, my only problem with this, Dylan, is Richard Regan's out front. I'm with you. We argue a lot and we disagree a lot, but for once I'm with you, there's no way
a lot more in this race.
Well, when you start to learn that I'm right more and you start to come to my side, this will happen more. But no, I agree with you that Richard Regan, there's no way he has the gas for this. And every time he leads a lap, that becomes more of a reality.
I am concerned, though. And this isn't even just about Richard Regan Jr., who obviously is a little bit more, like you said, there's a little bit more concern as there's a 3-car push. The 51 goes to the bottom, but was that a block? A little bit of a block from Richard Regan Jr. Bradley Holly, they're getting antsy up front. Yes, Regan Jr. is leading and is using more fuel as a result, but the rest of his RBM crew is also using fuel from the same exact point on track. You use more when you're out in front, but you're still using a lot regardless, and stretching it to 37 laps for all of them who pitted early might be tough.
Yeah, like I said, I want to believe in my heart that these guys know something we don't. Richard's a pretty smart driver with a lot of experience across PRL and other forms of sim racing. So I want to believe he knows something I don't, but I'm getting skeptical. But here, by the way, bottom lane, Jeff Evans talked about his dad led some laps earlier. Jeff wants to kind of complete this stamp here and have father-son both lead laps in a race here in PRL. Maybe not the first time it's happened, but it's the first time I can think of it happening in a long time. They're coming around here. Will Jeff lead? Yes.
It does appear that Jeff Evans took the lead. For sure, got that lap led, and that's good. We talk about bonus points and no push being given right there by Reese Bogue to Jeff Evans, or at least there's some disconnect right there. So 92.5 miles is the distance in length that the RBM crew, not just the RBM crew, but everybody who came down on that first pit stop will have to do. As Bradley Holly dives to the bottom, perfectly timed moved. He'll take the lead away. Holly and Regan Jr. both fighting for the championship, just a few points separating them, and they're both fighting for the lead of this race with 17 and a half to go.
By the way, name we mentioned a lot last week in the beginning. Mark Caitlin up in the top here in the second lane up top, back there, only second place in that top lane. So P4 effectively doing a great job here. Mark had a great time last week, even led some laps before having an incident that took him out of the race. Man, look at that. Holly back up to the top here, cuts off Regan, and now puts himself up there. Now we'll see if Holly wants to move back down here. Now, of course, the question is, why do you do this, right? There's a lot of people who ask that question. The reason is because you kind of kill the momentum of that lane, but I think it's too late now. Jeff Evans will make the big run to the inside. Holly did not get down there in time and kill that run, and now it's going to be Jeff Evans and Bradley Holly side by side.
So 15 points separates Richard Regan Jr. and Bradley Holly for P1 in the championship standings. Both of them have already utilized their drop week with 3 races to go, this one including. If either of them have a incident in this race, they wreck out, they finish at the back of the pack, one of them potentially, stand to gain a lot. If the caution comes out, none of them really have to go into the pits for fuel. Do you feel like, and this is not me pointing the fingers at anyone, with RBM's crew being potentially short on fuel by a lap or maybe 2, and with Richard Regan Jr. being ahead of Bradley Holly by 15 points in the championship standings, do you feel like Regan Jr. is maybe a little less, careful when it comes to pushing Bradley Holly? I'm not trying to insinuate anything, but I am saying that there's maybe a little bit less care if something goes wrong to Bradley Holly's race.
No, I think Regan's just smart enough to know how difficult the push is here and how sketchy the push is here if he wants to be pushing Bradley Holly around, that you're likely to cause something to happen, because right there's a bump. Look at that. This doesn't stay on it. It actually does stay locked up here a minute ago. So there you go. Ask and ye shall receive, Dylan Coyle. There's the push to Bradley Holly.
Yeah, and you saw there was a push that kind of came to the right rear quarter panel. I mean, I am not of the thought process that Richard Regan Jr. will do anything here that's over the line, but he could take care of a lot of problems if a push is ill-timed. I'm just saying. And I'm not advocating for it.
The danger, though, at Daytona and any super speedway, though, is it's you
never know if it'll catch you, too.
It's good. I was trying to find a better way to say it, but you're right. That's the problem, is that if the guy in front of you spins, it's likely that you're going to get caught up in it as well because of how the cars move around here. So that's why you
harder
need to be careful.
To be on that outside line when a wreck happens, because then you can't go down to the bottom to avoid anything. You just kind of have to hope that they're not swinging back up to the wall, which always happens in a crash in the corners.
Yep, the way that the science makes the car move is that the car is going to come back up the hill 99 times out of 100. So you're right. You got to hope you're already around it before it happens. But this is a great battle here with Richard Regan in the front four. This is Evans, Holly, Reespo, Regan Jr., Daniel Knight back in 5th, Mark Kalin in 6th. I mean, it's really a tight battle here for this. And I just think that it's going to ramp up again. I think right now people are still saving. We're still conserving. We're 13, almost 14 minutes left. I think the best is yet to come.
Richard Regan Jr. and Bradley Holly, 2 drivers that are synonymous with legendary in PRL history. Those 2 have the most wins all time, not even just combined, just 1 and 2. They've got more wins than anybody else. Abner Acosta is P3 in that, by the way, 1 win behind Richard Regan Jr. But Bradley Holly, I mean, he's in a whole other category, 48 wins ahead of Regan Jr. With 119 wins. But one guy is currently trying to take those conversations, and Reespo, of course, is right there as well. But one guy who's in P1 in the 51, Jeff Evans, has 3 wins in his Wednesday night NASCAR Series PRL career. He's got 1 in the GR86/MX Cup Series that has been run in the past and currently in other regards here in PRL history. But that's 4 total wins in his PRL career. He's battling with giants of this series.
Yeah, doing a great job at it. Just having a great run here. By the way, it's worth mentioning, if you are a current driver in PRL, registration is now open for Season 2. It'll open for all drivers at a later point, but there's some cool changes, Dylan, for next season. Thursday nights, Formula D is staying, and then we're going to have a Super Formula League next season on Thursday nights. And, of course, I'm just saying, with the threat of rain coming next season, the PRL admins are already working on that to see how rain will be integrated, but a whole different set of leagues next season, or different rules, or different possibilities maybe when the rain comes out on Monday and Tuesday nights during prototypes and GT3s. I'd tune in for that.
I just hope that we see a situation where Formula D's numbers get pumped up, because Formula C is was supposed to happen on Thursday nights along with Formula D, but Formula C unfortunately did not have the driver numbers that anyone in the PRL wanted, so they axed that. Formula D's numbers have been coming down a little bit, ever so slightly, as the year has gone on. So hopefully having that Super Formula Series helps Formula D and kind of trickles down the numbers into that series. If not, I am curious what PRL organizers will do. Oh, a little bit of wackiness right there for Bradley Holly. And guess who pushed him? Richard Regan Jr. So I'm telling you, I don't think Regan Jr. is going to be as careful in the bumps that he provides to Bradley Holly as Holly wants him to do, because you also have to think of it this way. Can Regan Jr. make it to the end if there's not an incident, if there's not a wreck? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't either. But yeah, that Formula D race, I know you and Reese Gardner call them regularly on Thursday nights, by the way. Those are great races. I've been a part of those broadcasts before. Those are fun races. But yeah, so like I said, registration open for current drivers right now for Season 2. So if you are a current driver, go check out the forums and we'll see what's happening. Oh, Richard Regan down to the bottom has left Bradley Holly now back to the top, trying to suck in some momentum. Now it's getting crazy.
We'll catch a replay here of Regan Jr. He's pushing on the exit of the corner. I mean, that's not a good push whatsoever, as they're still trying to shuffle it around 3 wide, 1 car on the outside. Oh no, Jeff Evans, he gets turned. Do they save it? None of them really do. They're wrecking in the back. Caution is out. Exactly what RBM wanted. Holly still leads as the yellow comes out with 9.5 minutes to go.
Well, you see the calamity in the back. It was kind of hard to tell because everyone up front kind of saved it and kept it together. You see Ted Lowendick back there, a couple others back here in the field that maybe had spent some time up front tonight, but a great save overall. Yes, there's a yellow, but that could have been about 104 times worse than what it was. And then we'll wait and see on the replay machine. But yeah, Jeff Evans got turned with a nasty bump there in the middle of a corner. You were just alluding to how dangerous those can be. And we're going to get probably one more shot at this, Dylan Coyle. So everyone's going to kind of gather it up. Some people will come down pit road, some people won't. And
This might be a quickie. This might be a quickie caution too, because nobody was a lap down, which cuts out that extra lap that is given for cars one lap down to come into the pits. That saves like 1 minute and 20 seconds from this entire caution counter. That'll come into play big time here.
Yeah, it will come into play here. It'll be a big factor in what's going to happen here. So we'll wait and see. Bradley Holly already caught the pace truck. Here's your replay. Watch the bottom of your screen. Jeff Evans is the leader, and he's just going to get a bump here. Is that Reese Bogue on the bottom? I believe it is from this up top view. And yeah, he's got a bump there.
That's...
But look at this. I mean, on back, there's a wreck in the back, but when you consider that Jeff Evans saved it and Reese Bogue saved it and everyone, great job.
I do have to say, though, and we mentioned it earlier, where's the one place you should never, ever, ever push? In the corners. And I don't know if it was, I don't know. We kept seeing the RBM cars pushing in the corners. Not the right move. Not the right move ever. It's led to that crash.
And listen, that's a very hot button topic across iRacing super speedways, right? There are certain drivers like yourself or maybe myself who say, hey, don't ever touch me in the corner. I don't want it. I don't want to be a part of it. I'm a no thank you kind of guy. But there are others who are, listen, hey, if it makes it go faster and you're good at it, let's try it. Let's see what happens. And let's
lap, sure, do it.
Let's watch it again here. This will be a close review. And I almost want to think a little bit what happens here more than Reese bumping per se. It looks like Jeff was kind of wiggling the car back and forth a little bit in that line, and that'll scrub some speed off. So I'm not sure if Reese was bumping or if Jeff was scrubbing speed. Now, you can make the argument that maybe Reese could have lifted a little bit there, but he has a car behind him. Lifting in a super speedway is much harder of a skill than it sounds like. But yeah, once again, they go around, and now let's re-rack him here. It's going to be Bradley Holly, Thomas Sink, Reese Bogue, Regan, Mark Kalin, your top 5. And that puts Jeff Evans back to 6 right in front of James Morgan. Watch this one more time here.
So this is...
No, you're right. No, I was wrong. I thought Evans was scrubbing speed there, but you're right. That's a pretty solid line.
I hate insinuating anything.
But you do.
But I am. I am a little bit suspect that... Again, I could be completely off base here, and I could be saying things that are absolutely not true, but if RBM could not make it 37 laps on a full tank of fuel, they needed a caution to come out, and we saw there being a lot of pushing a little bit recklessly from Regan Jr. and Reese Bogue.
I think you're in the right church, wrong pew, as the saying would say. I think that Reese, with all due respect, and I like Reese, we've talked before, Reese is an aggressive driver, and that has proven him to be successful at times in PRL. I don't think Reese is out to purposely throw a caution in order to benefit himself.
Oh, I wholeheartedly agree. I just don't think it mattered if they did anything.
I think Reese is just an aggressive driver who thought a bump in the corner was a good idea. I don't think there's anything more than that. By the way, to RBM, it's at Dylan Coyle 5 on X. I'll point that out.
Wait, it is?
Isn't it not?
It's just at Dylan R. Coyle.
Okay, then there you go. At Dylan R. Coyle. Yeah.
And I'm sorry, I don't mean to be insinuating anything, but, and I don't mean, I am calling, I guess, integrity into question. I don't mean to, but if I am behind, I am behind the 8 ball a little bit, I'm not going to be so forgiving if the opportunity arises to be a little bit over aggressive, because, you don't flat out wreck a guy. That's never right. They never were doing that, and they didn't, and they refrained from doing that, but it wasn't the most, they weren't being the most careful, I should say, which is whatever, right? We're going back to green flag racing for the final time here tonight. What are you thinking? 4 laps, 5 laps?
Maybe 5. Yeah, we'll wait and see how long it takes him to get around here to meet Barney the flagman for the green flag here. But What I think is this is going to pick up a little bit of intensity here. If you do believe that that RBM was behind on gas, I'm not sure this one caution puts them in the clear without without still needing to be a little conservative until the white flag. But look at this: you got Holly, you got Sink, you got Bogue, Regan, you got Mark Kalin up there eager to get a win. James Morgan so eager to get a win. Joey Tebbin up in P8. Daniel Knight. This is going to get really crazy here before it gets better.
It's going to be a lot of fun with just around 3.5 minutes to go here in this race. Green flag back out in the air. Bradley Holly leads the field to green flag racing. And I think at this point, with 3.5 minutes to go, we're probably going to get 3. We're definitely getting 3. We might get 4 laps left in this one.
Yeah, 4 green flag laps or a yellow flag, whichever happens first here is what we're looking at. Look at this top lane trying to get lined up here, and they're already losing a bit of ground, but I think they'll make it back up here as they get these engines revved up here, and before you know it, they'll be neck and neck once again coming down into turn number 3.
Well, the other question is, who tries to make that third line work? We already see some movement going on mid-pack of who's going to go into the middle, into the sucker hole, but it's going to be harder to close in on them. A little bit of separation from that outside line. People are going to be very anxious to get by Thomas Sink, as just happened. They're starting to move up to the outside line. Sink has damage. He was leading the outside for a bit. Now he's third in line and will continue to drop and fall back.
Yeah.
Outside line made. Checking up. They're wrecking in the midfield. Big wreck. Cautions out. Bradley Holly in the lead. And it looks like he's going to win it. Everyone involved. Sink is there. Richard Regan Jr. involved. Huge for the championship.
Yeah, we'll wait and see how they come back across the line. But I saw definitely Mark Kalin and James Morgan had moved up right before that happened. So they definitely lucked out and avoided the wreck here. So we'll wait and see how they cross the line and where the points. But I believe it's going to be Holly, Kalin, and Bogue, I believe, are going to be your top 3 here. We'll wait and see how it lines up, though. It could be some extra stuff left here with about 2 minutes left here. Probably 2 laps, maybe 3 laps left, depending upon what Barney wants to do under this yellow.
Yeah, we never know what Barney likes to do with these caution laps with a tied race at the end, but it feels like, we consistently get these wrecks at the end. It's just so hard, right, to time it out very well. Lots of meatball flags is what we're seeing on screen, Derek.
Yeah, lots of required repairs. So lots of drivers who wants to get it fixed, maybe turn an extra lap and, do better than their opponents. See Bradley Holly on board here. See him looking up at the telemetry, trying to figure out, make sure he knows he's P1. He'll start to get comfortable and relax here. Now we've met up with the pace car. We're down to pace speed. So in a moment, we'll see the race spot replay and we'll see what happens here. There's a lot of angry drivers. I can tell you that on the radio. A lot of opinions about what caused this incident and this yellow flag. I don't think anyone's surprised it happened, that said, but we'll take a look here and see how it's going to line up here. We'll come around here with about probably 30, maybe 25 seconds to go when we catch the front. So Barney will show them probably the white flag, and then we'll come around one more time. So everyone now just kind of being patient with this does. Any of those cars who were on pit road for any kind of repairs or penalties, it gives them one more chance maybe to get a repair done and come out and beat some competitors. There's Barney with the yellow flag, so that will not be your white flag. Or it could be your white flag, I should say, but he will not wave it. He'll wave the yellow instead and show that to the field here. Any moment now, the replay will come up. I'm waiting for it here live to happen, and we'll see what causes incident. Just a lot of calamity. This is white flag. There it is. We're finally going to see it. So Bradley Holly is kind of looking up, checking telemetry, making sure all is okay. And watching along. Mark Kalin here in second, Reese Bogue in third. Let's run down the order here. Here's your wreck right here. Look up top. Looks like, is that going to be Sink? I think smacked the inside wall. Probably from a bad push. And then just on back, it got horrible. There's Nick McLaughlin involved and many, many others. So just probably a bad push from the top side, an aggressive push, the push you need to make to win. The time just doesn't pay off at the end of a race here. And so they're going to come around behind the Pace truck. It's such a weird size comparison, isn't it? To see the Pace truck leading these Grand National cars around when we use the sedan to lead the trucks around. It's sort of a weird role reversal, if you will, Dylan. So, well, you talked about Bradley Holly having the most wins. We're going to put another notch in the belt, if you will.
It's going to be his 120th victory all-time in PRL competition, his 69th on Wednesday nights. And that's a pretty nice thing to wrap your head around. He's 49 wins above Richard Regan Jr. on the all-time list. He's going to go to 33 above him in the Wednesday night list. I mean, the guy's a legend, and he's about to, well, maybe he's about to get his checkered flag right here. Yeah, that's his checkered flag. Thank you, Barney, for waving it with the ferocity of a final green flag 2x2 finish at the line. Officially, Bradley Holly wins at Daytona. A big day for his championship hopes. It has gotten much tighter up front. The gap was 15 between he and Richard Regan Jr. Regan Jr. will finish this race a lap down, might be 2 laps down because he couldn't even finish it.
Yeah, it's sort of an interesting twist. You made a couple points tonight about the point swing between Holly and Regan. If something happened to Holly, well, here's something that happened to Regan. So that'll create a weird point swing there, but great run elsewhere across the field. Man, what a great run for Bradley Holly. I love that paint scheme, by the way, with the shark mouth there on the side. That's so cool. Isn't it? You see Mark Kalin with the respect, giving a small little congratulatory bump there. So cool to see.
Indeed, it is, as looks like Kalin will go to celebrate with Bradley a little bit, but Bradley's going to go to the start-finish line and slow it down for the celebrations to ensue. Mark Kalin wants to get the best view possible. Lawnmowers are going to have to come out to that infield grass area because the ball field now has Bradley Holly there to celebrate in.
Yeah, great win for Bradley. Another successful night. A lot of successful night for a lot of names we're going to talk about in a minute. Pretty cool ending here to a very, very exciting race.
Let's take a look at the results here with Bradley Holly, and Mark Kalin's still there. Bradley Holly winning this race with 64 laps total. After 63, I should say, they completed an extra lap to get to 64. And that's what I'm seeing on my timing board. Anyway, Holly, Mark Kalin, Reese Bogue, your podium, James Morgan, and Joshua Tellez, who started way in the back, finishes top 5. Dominic Beijing, Jeff Evans, Ted Lowendick, Jen Westerfield, and Matt Gagnon finishes in the top 10. Matt Gagnon came dressed for the occasion. In P11, we continue rolling on with Colton Lane, Nick Bayer, Joey Tebbin finishing in P13. Dalton Geyer, Daniel Knight, Doug Evans, Thomas Sick, Jacob Emery, Nick McLaughlin. 19 drivers finishing on the lead lap. Richard Regan Jr. finishes 2 laps down in 20th. That's a massive swing of points. He probably loses the championship lead for now. Adam Zemke, Steve Loving, 2 and 3 laps down. To finish with almost all your drivers on the lead lap and your farthest back driver being 3 laps down, that's quite impressive. But now it's time to talk to the winner of this race. And that, of course, is the always on top of things, Bradley Holly. And Bradley, just unbelievable. You controlled much of that race. Did you ever feel like it was in danger at the end with some of the bumps you were getting?
Just like you said, I wanted to keep control of the race, and I did that as best as I could.
Well, that's your 120th PRL victory, 69 NASCAR Wednesday Night Series victories. You are 49 wins in front of anybody else in PRL history. But I've got to ask, Bradley, what has been your hardest victory you've earned yet?
There's been a lot of tough ones, and Atlanta this year was very tough. Brandon put up a hell of a fight when we were battling for the lead until he had to pit for fuel. But I mean, a plate race is probably one of the hardest ones. Controlling lines, whatever line I'm in, and trying to make sure that somebody on my team can win. Fortunately, I was lucky tonight and I got the win. But with Mark being on the outside, I didn't care who won, if it was me or him.
Well, it seems like you potentially will take a very slim championship advantage coming out of this race. You came in 15 points down. Officially, though, Richard Regan Jr. finishes in 20th. That's probably equaling a advantage going your way into the final 2 races. But Super Speedway again, sort of, with Atlanta, so anything can happen, right?
Yeah, I mean, Atlanta's probably going to be more of a death race than tonight. It's a mile and a half track, it's a lot more narrow, a lot more or a lot less margin for error. So we'll have to see how next week goes, and pray I survive.
A little bit of Mad Max with that death race right there. Congratulations on the win, Bradley, and hey, may the force be with you.
Thank you very much.
I was expecting and also with you, but I'll accept it.
May the force be with you then.
I moved him immediately after that. Unbelievable. All right. Bradley Holly winning that race. Derek, you're standing by with Reese Bogue.
Reese, well, what a great run tonight. P3. We saw you up and down the field throughout the night. I'm going to start with the question first, though. Had the yellow not come out, we saw RBM pit first on lap 32 coming to 33. Did you guys have enough gas to make it if the yellow hadn't come out?
Yeah, I believe Rich was a little bit close on fuel because he was leading for a couple laps there. But I know I was clear. I think I was good by a lap or 2. So as far as I know, we're all going to make it. We took a little extra fuel. I think everybody else took like 8.2. We took like 10.2 or whatever the number is. So we took a little extra fuel, lost a little extra time, but we were able to pit early and then run together, come back to the front. And yeah, I feel like I at least would have had enough. If I had to, could have saved a little bit. But yeah, we would have had enough. We weren't really struggling right there. We're just trying to run together.
So then the cause of the first of the last 2 cautions, maybe not the cause, but I guess maybe the beginning of the process is yourself and Jeff Evans. You give him a bump in the corner and he kind of wiggles it around and everyone kind of freaks out and chaos happens as it does. From your perspective, was that just a typical bump in the corner? Do you think you maybe bumped him a little off on a corner somewhere? What happened?
Yeah, so I guess a couple laps before that, I was blinking a little bit, which I never really realized. I mean, a couple guys told me, but I mean, everything looked fine on my screen, so that might have had a little effect with it. I definitely, I'm like I said, I wasn't paying attention, but I think I looked at my fuel, or I looked in a relative or mirror or something. Next thing I looked down and I was just coming to him, and I tried to check up, but it wasn't enough, and he got on the apron, and I just tried to get up out of his way, kind of got pancaked right pancake sandwich, whatever you want to call it, right in the middle, and we all kept going, or most of us kept going. A couple guys here, sucks for them, but I talked about it with Jeff. He said it was all right. It was just kind of racing, thinking that's Daytona. It'll happen. A little slick, but we're all good.
All right. So, well, you and I talked, I think, a couple weeks ago, and you kind of expressed this. You were kind of frustrated. The season wasn't going well, but it's really starting to turn around for you a little bit here in the past couple weeks. What's led to the turnaround here that you think is causing you to have some better results?
I'm gonna be honest. I think it just all starts with qualifying. I mean, I'm not a big qualifier. I don't really put too much time in for qualifying today, which I probably should. I'm more of a long run and race pace guy. Even real life stuff I race, I can never put a good lap down. So that probably starts it, because then you got to get through the mess, and I need to work on that. But once I started qualifying better, like tonight, third. I think last week Rockingham was 6th, and ended up now with 2/3. Just it all starts with qualifying lap, where you start, if you're in the mess or not in the mess here. It may or may not have made a big difference, because we ended up back there early anyway. But I mean, it is what it is, and I think definitely more mile and a half or short tracks going to be qualifying position to get the good runs.
All right, Reese. Well, great job tonight here at Daytona, and we'll see you next week at Atlanta.
Yeah, thank you. Wasn't sure I was going to race tonight, because I'm actually leaving in probably about 15 minutes to drive down to the real Daytona for this week. So
stay dry.
Oh yeah, thank you.
Take a poncho, an umbrella, maybe a
Can we
rain,
not
maybe
talk about the potential for rain
an
this
anti-rain
weekend?
dance. I don't know what the opposite of a rain dance is. Whatever it is, you might want to learn it.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't really looked at the weather, so thanks for letting me know. I might have to bring a couple things for rain gear. But thank you guys. Yeah, and hopefully maybe I can go back to back at the new Super Speedway Atlanta next week, and we'll see you then. Thank you guys for putting this on, and good job everybody tonight.
All right, have a good night, Reese.
Thank you. You guys too.
All right, that's Reese Bogue finishing P3 in tonight's race. Now the driver finished P2, becoming more of a mainstay in the booth for different reasons. Mark, Kayla, Mark, you got a P2?
Yeah, super stoked. Hell of a redemption week for last week's mishap. I was really bummed about that one. And I told Brad towards the end of this race, I was like, I'm going for the win. But unfortunately, that caution came out and came up about a lap or two short. So still super happy. Started back in the back, finished P2. Awesome race. Just super proud of everybody. And yeah, it was awesome.
Are these just tracks you do well at? Like we twice in a row we've seen up front really almost dominating at certain points of the race. Is this just tracks you do out, tracks you like? Is there something different going on for you? What's happening here?
I've always been strong at the plate races. Either last time I was here or 2 times ago, I had the lead coming out of turn 4 here at Daytona, and unfortunately got turned on the exit of turn 4. But yeah, the shorter tracks and the longest tracks, for whatever reason, I'm stronger there than other intermediate tracks. So there are definitely tracks that I look forward to. But I have started getting a little bit more consistent on pace with the intermediates, because I've finally started to figure out how to save tires at those tracks. So, but yeah, just had so much fun tonight, and had to put on the pink numbers for Valentine's Day. So happy Valentine's Day, all you ladies out there.
All right. Well, last question I have for you, Mark, before I let you go. I've never noticed this before, and maybe I just not observant. What the hell is that thing behind you? It's blinking. It's got flashing lights. What is? I can't tell what it is in the camera shot.
Well, on the closest to the door side is a Lego X-Wing, and then you have Luke's land speeder and Legos, and then the big one with the flashing lights is the Lego Star Destroyer.
Wow.
I can't believe you had to
Big
ask
Star
that
Wars
there.
connection tonight. Sorry, what, Dylan?
I can't believe you had to ask that. You've got a resident Star Wars mega fan right here.
I'm gonna get some hate. It's at Derek Races on X when I say this. I'm more of a Trekkie. More of a Trekkie.
Yeah, I like both series. Unfortunately, you don't really see Star Trek in Legos, so.
That's true. But let me tell you, best TV in a while, Star Trek Strange New Worlds on Paramount Plus, must-see TV.
Yeah, that's a pretty good show. I like it.
Must see. Well, listen, Mark, great job tonight. We'll see you next week at Atlanta.
All right, buddy. Take her easy. Live long and prosper.
Bye, Mark. Live long and prosper. All right, well, last interview here, Dylan Coyle has caught up with our P4 finisher, James Morgan.
James, you had a really solid run. There were a few times earlier I felt like it's things that you would remember. You know, the old meme of remembering. They will remember that. And it felt like you were in the draft a few times, and some other drivers left you, or you left them, and it didn't really end up hurting at the end of the day. But do you feel like over the course of a race at Daytona or a super speedway, actions and movement from drivers in the pack earlier in the race, you might remember when it comes down to the end to not work with someone or to work with someone, anything like that?
So to a certain extent, yeah, absolutely, especially if you really feel like someone didn't completely left you out to dry. But at the end there, I wasn't really thinking a whole lot about that. I was just thinking about trying to put myself in the best position possible to try and get a win if possible. That was kind of my thoughts toward the end. I got in line there behind Mark. I had a close call off of turn 4. It was a lot closer than I thought after I went back and watched it. There in front of Thomas, we all got kind of really close together. But my goal was to push Mark for as long as possible and then try and make it 3 wide on the top back on the tri-oval on the checkered flag and see what happened.
Well, I've got to say, you know, before I allow you to shout out for your team, how awesome it is that you've got that scheme looking like it is, because I love the Jimmy Johnson Xfinity Busch, whatever you want to call it, series kind of mention right there with the 12 scheme. That's what it feels like. That's what it looks like.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And honestly, shout out to Trading Paints there. And so that's kind of where it came from and everything. I had a goal at the beginning of the year to kind of switch Jimmy Johnson schemes every week. And then I started running really good at the beginning of the year, kind of got a little bit superstitious, was like, I really don't want to switch it. But then I ended up switching it this week.
All right. Well, hey, we'll give you the platform to shout out your team or anyone else you'd like to let the world know about.
Yeah, I just have to thank everyone at Beulah Rossi Esports and Derek over here. I know you guys have been talking back and forth throughout the broadcast and everything. You guys do a great job with the broadcast, and it's been a lot of fun racing this league so far this year, so those are my shout outs. It's been a lot of fun. Look forward to continuing.
Well, we appreciate it mightily. Congratulations on the top 5 finish, James.
Thank you. You guys have a good one.
James Morgan finishing in P4 with a very nice retro-looking paint scheme. Derek, 2 great races here tonight. A lot of action that we saw, and I got to be honest, both times I was really impressed with how these drivers race this track.
Yeah, a lot of green flag racing. Easy for me to say is what we saw tonight. A lot of great side-by-side action, a lot of strategy and great calls happening. I had fun, and I think we'll be back doing this one more time Sunday night for the Cup Series.
I will not be here, unfortunately.
Oh.
Well, this Sunday I will. I should, but probably not, because I'll probably be in Daytona while it's raining, because that is what happens when NASCAR goes to a specific racetrack. It rains. So Atlanta Motor Speedway next week, Las Vegas the week after that to end the Grand National Series schedule. Same with the trucks, but hopefully I'll be on the call with you on Sunday for the Cup Series race at, of course, Daytona, but Atlanta Motor Speedway, February 21st, 2024. Same day of the week on a Wednesday night, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, same time for the broadcast start. You can watch it on RaceSpotTV on YouTube. But from myself, Derek Watson alongside me, Dane Baird, of course, in the production booth. It's been a good, solid 2-race stretch at Daytona here for the Grand National and Truck Series. Bradley Holly burning it down, won the Grand National Series race. But for now, we wish you a pleasant good evening, good night, and good racing.